welcome to NXTGEN Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of rapid fire racing action and the brilliant battles that come with it in the one and only NXTGEN Racing Legends Cup Season 3, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing. Today marks round number 5 and with it the commencement of a summer triple header. That's right, 3 weeks, 3 rounds of racing, 9 races in total, and it all begins here in the north of England at the Cadwell Park circuit. A circuit which is long established in motorsporting history in the United Kingdom, and a circuit that spans the best part of 87 years of age. It's more synonymous with racing on 2 wheels rather than 4, but the one thing about this Cadwell Park circuit is, regardless whether it's 2 wheels or 4, it is an absolutely picturesque circuit and is likened to a mini Nürburgring of sorts. With 18 corners over the extent of its 2.17 mile length, it is a circuit where the corners come absolutely blazingly quick, and with its tight and rather narrow road racing surface, it's also one where overtakes are changing to format even for the bravest of drivers. But through it all, and with qualifying being so important, who is going to be the one to come away championing point at Cadwell Park? Well, that's what we're here to find out today as we welcome you to this live broadcast from circuit side. And this broadcast is available on free media platforms for your viewing pleasure. You could be tuning in right now via one of the 2 official NXTGEN Racing media channels, and those include YouTube at youtube.com and search for NXTGEN Racing, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via YouTube. Alternatively, you can be tuning in via the official NXTGEN Racing Facebook group, and you may find facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing. Alternatively, if you're not in YouTube and you're not in Facebook and we haven't said hello to you there, we also say hello to you in the unofficial broadcast available on Twitch at twitch.tv/TX141, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning via Twitch. Who is TX141? I hear you ask. Well, allow me to introduce myself as your host and commentator for this season. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. I will bring you all your racing action as it unfolds. And as we head to the midway point of the season, well, there's plenty to unfold today and indeed to unpack after 4 absolutely brilliant rounds of racing so far. But before that, a question from you, of course, and that is, what is our schedule for tonight? Well, you can see it on screen. Times in British Summer Time, that's BST, or Universal Coordinate Time +1, UTC +1. And as we can see, we head into qualifying in approximately 18 minutes time, 15 minutes in duration. All our drivers out there looking to go for pole position, and pole position could be important given the severity of how challenging it is to overtake at Cadwell Park, but we will see about that. After qualifying, we head straight to the grid for our first of 3 races today, the first 2 being sprints, the third being none other than a full-length feature race, and race number 1 being 10 laps in length, much like race number 2, and due to get underway at 8:15 this evening. After our first race, then race number 2 will be very quickly around the corner, scheduled to get underway at what will be none other than 9 o'clock, after which we'll then take another brief breather before returning for our feature race, our 15-lap length thriller, and that will be at 9:45 this evening. We expect that to go ahead, but plenty of racing to come then, and let's talk a little bit about the season so far and what is still lying in wait. So, we opened up the story all the way back on the 13th of May at the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit. There it was a challenge for many a driver out there, but those who stood tall were the likes of Isaac Doble and also, to a lesser extent, Adam Delmont, but it really was the story of Isaac Doble dominating the way at Brands Hatch Indy. And then on the 27th of May, 2 weeks later, we saw roles reversed at the front of the field, where it was Adam Delmont who was to strike strong, and meanwhile it was Isaac Doble who seemed to struggle by comparison. But that was in the overall Drivers' Championship, and in terms of the Prime Drivers' Championship, well, we got to see some brilliant fighting from the likes of Track Scotland Stuart Wyniss and also iRacing Esports Nick Clibbins, as the two continue to exchange places and paint in equal measure. And indeed, from that point onwards, it really has been the battle of the likes of Wyniss, Kieran Smart, and also Clibbins in the Prime class, where it be at Knockhill International, where Track Scotland absolutely delivered at their home circuit on the 10th of June, or last time out at Silverstone National, where we got to see some absolutely firm battle in action between the trio and some other primes trying to squeeze their way into the mix as well, including none other than the likes of Phil McDougall and also Nigel Stock. But rolling ourselves back to the overall Drivers' Championship, when those 2 rounds 3 and 4 at Knockhill International, it was absolutely mixed fortunes abound up and down the field, with Jamie Dewey being one of many a driver to try and rise the way up through the ranks, and the same at Silverstone National as well, where we got to see some absolutely brilliant battling there from lights out to checker flag in all 3 of our races. But now we are here today then at the Cadwell Park circuit on the 8th of July, and well, we can expect plenty more battling here, albeit maybe battling in terms of lap time rather than track time, but we will see, because I'm sure that our Legends drivers here will try to prove a point, which is you can go too wide around the entirety of none other than the Cadwell Park circuit, but they will have to try and find a way to do so. Then after today, we'll be heading to Thruxton in a week's time for the 15th of July, and then on the 22nd of July, it'll be the Donington Park National Circuit, and that will conclude our summer triple header, at which point we will see the return of the NXTCC, and that's when we head back to our alternating 2-week format, and in our penultimate round on the 5th of August, round number 8 of 9, it'll be the Alton Park Island Circuit that plays host to our drivers, before we bring the curtain down by heading back to where it all began, at the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit. Once again, on the 19th of August, we will come full circle, but at that time, we will be declaring our champions for Season 3 of the NXTGEN Racing Legends Cup. So coming into tonight, where do the championship stand after 4 rounds? Well, in the overall Drivers' Championship is Adam Delmont who now leads the way. Drop scores do have a part to play, and they are not factored in here as of yet, so that's what you need to keep in mind when you see that Isaac Doble is sitting down in second. Now, if Isaac Doble was on the grid today, he'll be looking to strike back strong, but at the moment at least, it's looking as though we're going to be without Isaac Doble, and therefore for Adam Delmont, this is going to be an opportunity to really run away at the top of the pile when it comes to this overall Drivers' Championship, given his lead of 57 points currently, and that lead is set to expand if all the theory pays off in practice. Nick Lewin sits in third, your leading Pram driver there, and he's only 3 points ahead of Kieran Sharp, and the battle between the iRacing Esports driver and the Sim Racing Collective drivers, well, it's absolutely brilliant. It's been brilliant so far, and we can expect it to continue. Don't forget about the rising tide of Jamie Dorey, series organiser there, sat in 5th on 158 points. He's 2 ahead of Kieran Smart, and from the Track Scotland driver, it's to his teammate Stuart Winess in 7th place on 142 points. The best part 27 points clear of Andrew Pike, with Benjamin Gregory and Sam Bradley completing your overall top 10. Outside the top 10, best of the rest 11, it's Nigel Stock there, who's made himself a great impression since the season opener, and is continuing to move forward, particularly at Silverstone last time out. He enjoyed some brilliant fights at the front of the field. He's ahead of Alan McCain by the best part 21 points, and then we have your top 15 completed by Matthew Sheraton, Mikey Doble and Gavin Gardner. In 16th, it's Sam Smith ahead of Lewis Mason by a single point, and a further 13 to Duncan Mariah, and then we have Ben Aldrier and Lee Horn completing the top 20. And outside the top 20, and let's talk about them as well, Thomas Delaney sits in 21st on 20 points, 5 ahead of Michael Lees. It's now a further 4 back to Phil McDougall, with Lewis Delmont and Callum Murray both on their 6 points apiece. It's 5 points apiece to William Kurtler and Matthew Williams, 26th and 27th, and the same for Jonathan Berry in 28th. And then the last drive to get any points against their name is Mark Hughes, who made his debut last time out at Silverstone, exchanging a Miltech Civic Cup machine, the FN2 that he normally races there, for one of the Legends machines, and well, coming to grips with the rather tenacious Ford Legends 1934 staple machine. But yet to score any points, Wayne Douglas, Mark Sykes and Ian Manners, and that's how your overall Drivers' Championship stands after 4 rounds. Now coming on to the Pram class, we adjust the points here for the Pram Fisher positions, and we can see Kieran Smart is leading only by 3 points over Nick Clearings. It continues to sway back and forth between these two from round to round and race to race, and right now Kieran Smart really trying to make sure that he can hold on to that lead, and indeed Nick Clearings has proven to be one of the favourites when it comes to the Pram class in the NXTGEN Legends Cup based on previous season performances, but Kieran Smart right now also giving himself a very positive reputation. His teammate Stuart Winess sits in 3rd, and right now really is the best of the rest on 221 points, and is losing the top 2 but breaking away from the rest of the field, and is he in a bit of a no man's land, or can he get close to Clearings and Smart come the end of today? Well, Nigel Stock is then 4th on 159 points, only 1 ahead of Sam Bradley, as they continue to do battle, and then Lewis Mason sits in 6th on 121, 4 ahead of Alan McCain, with Sam Smith only a further point behind there, as the fight for 6th is between 3 drivers and only 5 points between them. That's going to get very tasty here. Duncan Rice and Thomas Delaney complete your top 10, and then Phil McDougall is in 11th on 57 points, 5 ahead of Callum Murray, with Mark Sykes, Michael Lees and William Kurtler completing your top 15, and outside the top 15, Ian Manners, Jonathan Berry, Mark Hughes and Matthew Jordan. They complete your Pram Drivers' Championship. Now coming to our circuit for today then, well, we are racing at the full layout of the Cadwell Park circuit. Located near the town of Louth in the county of Lincolnshire in England, the United Kingdom. Indeed, you have to go quite far north to get to this circuit. Well, a big thank you to iRacing.com, not just for the brilliant simulator, but the fact they've also gone out of their way to scan this circuit and bring it to the simulator and the track mats that come with it, because it is one of the lesser known circuits in the United Kingdom and indeed around the world, because it is more commonly associated with domestic and national level racing racing with motorcycles rather than cars. However, it is a circuit where you will see club level racing, also supercarts race around here, but it is a far cry from seeing the likes of GT class machinery around here, or indeed any major national championship on four wheels these days. But at its core, 18 corners, of which a majority of them, they do feature a rather rapid and aggressive series of elevation changes woven into their mix. And as our drivers roar the way around here, well, they're going to find very quickly it's about being smart with the throttle and brave on the brakes. For charging across that start-finish line, they'll head into the kink of turn number 1, a sharp left-hander that's very fast and uphill. You've got to believe in the camber of the road and the grip of the tyres, but you head over the crest of turn 2 and around through 3 to then roar your way on one of the longest straights on the circuit all the way up towards turn number 4. Swinging around through the right-angled right-hand corner, it's then coming down through the gooseneck at turns 5, 6 and 7, only to descend all the way back down the hill into turn number 8, a sharp left-hand right-angle corner. From there, they'll go into the kinks of 9 and 10, and the reason those are numbered is because that's where you would see the motorcycle chicane if it was being run, but we're not running it. And as they come out of the straightway there, they'll then head into left-hand of turn number 11 before they get to the infamous mountain of turn number 12. And why is it called the mountain? Well, it's better if we demonstrate rather than talk about it too much, but let's just say it's one of the sharpest elevation changes for a corner in the United Kingdom, and you will see cars potentially up on 2 wheels as they crest it at high speed. Then it'll be for the slaloms of turn 13, 14, 15, 16, only then suddenly go hard on the brakes into the short stop at turn 17, and then in the final corner at turn number 18, it's downhill all the way as they make the way back to the finish line. But as we get ready to go racing today, a quick reminder of the rules. This is a fixed setup series with all setups provided to our drivers ahead of each and every round of racing. Driver classes have been finalised as the conclusion of round number 3. We're not expecting anybody to chop or change, or we may have new drivers on the grid, and we'll talk more about them when we can. And sprint race-wise, well, the race 1 grid shall be set based on results of qualifying. That's a given. Race number 2's grid shall be set as a top 15 reverse grid based on results of race number 1. So essentially, the winner of race number 1, they start 15th for race number 2. The 15th place finisher starts on pole for race number 2. And if a driver finishes 16th or lower, well, that's where they'll start for race number 2. And in race number 3, we completely flip the finishing positions of race number 2. So whoever finished last as classified, they start on pole for race number 3. And the winner of race number 2, you guessed it, they start last and have to fight their way through, but that's why it's an extended feature race. And each driver shall have 1 fast spare available in each race should they need to use it. But these are sprint races. We're not expecting any pit stops unless it is for repair work, alternatively because the driver has picked up some penalties. And in terms of penalties, or more importantly, race stewarding, an independent race director shall be stewarding the races for track limit infringements and the deployment of the safety car. Penalties for track limit infringement shall be distributed as follows. Your first and second warning, they're just warnings, there's no penalty. Get a third warning, you've earned yourself a 5-second post-race time penalty. We double it to 10 on the 4th warning, and on the 5th warning, you've been cheeky enough, you've earned yourself a drive-through penalty that must be served within 3 laps of being rewarded. Racing incidents, meanwhile, shall be reviewed post-round. Well, that's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. We're all here for the racing, and therefore, let's head back to the circuit side and see who's out there at the moment trying to make a good impression in this final practice warm-up session. Well, it does look as though at the moment, Kieran Sharp is the fastest man out there as he roars his way around, as we do say hello there, not quite to the father of this man, but to the father of a fellow Sim Racing Collective driver, Andrew Pike, who I don't believe is on the grid, unfortunately, this evening. We hope to see him out here if he is able to make it, but we say hello there to Roger Pike, and I hope you're doing well, Roger, and it's great to see you there in the Facebook chat, and well, I do appreciate the compliment there with the fact that there's not much on TV, and well, I get the feeling it might be what is a situation on TV where you've got Wimbledon and also some other soap operas or such, albeit I'm not too familiar. I don't watch that much TV anymore, to be honest. I'm normally behind the microphone on the television rather than able to watch it, even if I'd like to, but very happy to have you with us, Roger, and I hope you're doing well. Indeed, all the Pike family are in happy spirits and high spirits with that. But right now, Kieran Sharp is definitely in high spirits because he has put himself right to the top of the tower, and well, speaking of Andrew Pike, it's almost as if we summoned him with only 6 minutes left in this practice warm-up session. He's leaving it late as Andrew Pike, but he's just arrived at the circuit, and that's absolutely fantastic to see. We look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do, and well, a big shout out there to both Roger and Angela, I believe, and that would be husband and wife and father and mother of Andrew Pike. But as all drivers get themselves all set here, what about in the Pro-Am class? Well, from first place overall to second place overall, your Pro-Am fastest driver out there provisionally at the moment is Nick Clibbins. He's definitely been looking as though he's been a bit of a speed demon in the Legends machine so far this season. And on the more technical circuits, he normally has been the driver who has gradually ran away with proceedings in the Pro-Am class. Now, this is going to be a circuit potentially where the slipstream is going to become a less of a factor because you've got so many corners to potentially break up the field. That's not to say slipstream is not going to be a potent factor for straights such as this, down the start-finish straight, past the old house, up towards turn number 1. But for every long stretch like this, we've also got multiple corner sequences where we will see our drivers' technical prowess of their Legends Coupe machines put to the test. Turns 2 and 3 here, this will be more about carrying speed to go on to the run up towards turn number 4, but the run round through turn 4 and down the gooseneck into turn 8, that's where we can expect the field to potentially spread out, given the fact you've got more corners in sequence. And the same, of course, coming over the mountain at turn number 12 and then into the slalom of turns 13 through to 17. Those are the sequences where we can expect things to be mixed up there, as Nick Clearings, I think, breaks a little bit too early and then goes for a spin. I think that might have been a little bit of practice of how to get the car back under control should he get it wrong, although I think he is going to tow to the pits at that point. But Clemens is looking quite fast out there. It's Jamie Dory. I caught up with him in the build-up to tonight. He was very excited to go racing here. And this is the first time he's ever raced at Cadwell Park on the simulator or in real life. Indeed, not too familiar with the circuit. It's not normally within his purview. He's more of a Thruxton man in terms of the local circuit. But I can tell you right now that I think Jamie's going to be very excited to go racing around here as he jumps his way over the escape road there. Well, he won't get any points for doing that, but he will win hearts in terms of style points. And in the end decides to cut over the apex of turn number 7 in order to step aside from the fast charging machine there of, I believe that's the 504, and that's Ben Altria who makes his way on through there for Full Tilt with Motorsport. But as the Full Tilt with Boosted Motorsport driver heads on his way through, well, he's back on the grid today in 9th place currently on an out lap here. And we're very happy to see the Full Tilt Motorsport crew out there looking to give it their all. And Altria is always a great star to see out there, no doubt about it. And well, it looks like we don't have Ben Gregory, his regular teammate, out there today, nor Mark Kent. But still, we do have one representative, and it's always good to see the 504 out there. But winding his way on down through turn number 17, loses the rear, and Jamie Dory puts the brakes on immediately. That's great cat-like reflexes there from Dory to avoid that going worse. We see very sideways there from Stuart Wyness. They're all sliding around through turn 17, and that's the one thing that Jamie was saying to me in the build-up to tonight, is that the grip levels at this Cadwell Park circuit are incredibly low. It is a very slippery surface out there, albeit you can see down the start-finish straight where they've actually resurfaced the inside line towards the pit wall compared to the outside of the circuit, and you will see that at multiple points around here because this Cadwell Park circuit has gone through multiple partial resurfacing exercises over the course of its extensive history, with the more recent ones focusing on that start-finish straight. You can tell that because you've got patches of tarmac that are much darker compared to others, and that's normally a sign of fresh tarmac versus older tarmac, where the older tarmac is much more barren, where it's been overheated in the time due to sun and also cars being out there, whereas the more recent tarmac, well, it does look a lot nicer out there. It's much deeper black. But the downside, of course, of the fact is you do have varying grip levels on the different patches of tarmac in itself. But as a number of drivers there do decide to step wide, plenty of grass for them to park the car on if they can get to a stop. But of course, they've got to be careful of the fact there's plenty of undulations within that grass, and therefore you can damage the suspension. Well, we do have some newcomers on the grid today, and none other than Carl Thompson is new to the grid, and he'll be in the Pram class here in the number 14 in the white and black machine. And we wish Carl all the best on his debut here, and let's look forward to seeing how he can get to grips with the very tricky Legends machine around a very tricky circuit indeed. As far as difficulties and challenges go, we wait to give himself a challenge of trying to master this car in a debut where he's picked the hardest circuit on the calendar, arguably, to do so, because the Cadwell Park circuit is not going to pull any punches, as Mark Hughes improves there to 1 minute 40.478, decides to pike up on the grass, but he seems to be quite happy with that. Well done to Mark for finding an extra couple of seconds out there. So some of our drivers are definitely finding time, as we say hello in the YouTube chat there to Walshboy2012 and also to Harley Phonic, who says these things look hard to drive, and indeed they're very lightweight machines, these Ford Legends, and normally they're quite comfortable to drive. Driving them fast is the challenge because you have a very lightweight car powered by a motorbike engine, and quite appropriate then we should be at a circuit that's typically known for motorcycle racing, given these things have a motorcycle style engine. But, of course, they're a lot wider than motorcycles, they're four-wheeled. But the thing about these cars is when you have corners that have got plenty of camber and elevation changes in them, these cars naturally have a tendency to go up onto three wheels, i.e. they cock a wheel, as it's known, and in doing so, that means they become even more slippery and they start to slide about on the rear end. At Silverstone last time out, 2 weeks ago, we got to see a much more straightforward circuit, very flat circuit. These Legends machines are incredibly stable. It's only in the medium and high speed corners where you start to feel the car lift up as you turn through an apex, particularly at Cops Bend, turn number 1 at Silverstone National, where we saw the majority of the spins happen there, or the drivers getting it wrong and had the snap oversteer, because the rear of the car, once you carry enough speed into a corner, starts to lift up and it comes around before you as a driver have even now cleared the corner, and that's why you have to be very careful with the steering lock you apply. However, here at Cadwell Park, because you've got so many elevation changes packed into the corners on the road surface, it means the weight of this 500 kilogram machine, minus driver, starts to really wobble about, as we see Benelchi giving a brilliant exhibit of exactly what happens when it does start to let loose. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to need to let loose our drivers into qualifying, because it is time for qualifying. Practice is complete, and who's going to put it on pole here for our first race of the day? It's time to find out at Cadwell Park. So qualifying gets underway. 15 minutes, all the drivers will be out there together, and who can put it on pole? That will be the challenge, as Jamie Dory is the first to leave the pit lane, but they all very eagerly and quickly make their way on out. Now, what can we expect in qualifying? Well, typically the form we have seen in previous qualifying sessions throughout the season is that normally all the drivers try and get out there as quickly as possible and all try to tuck into the draft of each other, and by doing so, well, naturally then they try to set banker laps before very quickly starting to siphon the slipstream off each other in order to set the ultimate lap time. Cadwell Park could be very different because we have quite a big circuit, but we also have a circuit where we've seen already that the challenge is getting the car around this circuit in a consistent and controlled manner more than finding that fast lap time. Now, at the very top end of the field, if you are a Jamie Dory or a Nick Clibbins, or alternatively a Andrew Pike or Kieran Sharp of this world, speaking of Andrew Pike, here he is, he decides to let another car go. They may be very eagerly looking for a slipstream in order to gain that ultimate lap time, and the tow is going to prove very powerful down the start-finish straight, also the run between turns 3 and 4, and to a lesser extent emerging from turn 8 heading in towards turn 11. Slipstream might be worth the best part of 2 free attempts, and it could be a defining factor for those who are going for the ultimate lap time. But just getting some good laps together and find a bit of comfort and a bit of tyre temperature as you go out there is also going to be highly valuable. And when you consider looking at the weather here today, well, we do have a track temperature currently of 34 degrees centigrade and an ambient of 20 degrees centigrade. It is quite a warm track surface. We really are in the peak of summer in the United Kingdom at the moment, and therefore it's no surprise that we are seeing a warm track surface, and that could mean those grip levels are going to be very variable, just because at first, once you start to build up that temperature in the tyre, it will start to come alive quite nicely, but when it gets hot, it doesn't quite get sticky anymore, and that's when you can suddenly find that actually the very warm tyre can give way and it loses grip as quickly as it can gain it. So therefore, for our drivers, they've got to be smart with when they push these tyres, and indeed they may opt to come into the pits a couple of times in qualifying to change the tyres on the car whilst burning out the fuel, because remember, they can't change the fuel load. They are on a fixed setup. They have a regulated amount of fuel in the tank. The only way to get the fuel out of the car in qualifying is to deliver laps, as Kieran Sharp there makes his way over the mountain on a much cooler lap this time in his out lap and gets ready to go much more aggressive on the next one. Speaking of first flying laps, so they're underway for the majority of the field here for the first time today, and Stuart Wynis, who we can see here for Track Scotland, He's just ahead of teammate and championship leader in the Pro-Am class of Kieran Smart, who tucks in immediately behind him. And these two, the two teammates, have definitely made it their focus throughout the season to group together throughout qualifying, which is only natural, so that way they can work together and gain the toe off each other. But why are we mentioning that? Well, the reason we're talking about that is because of the fact the teamwork between them has definitely been outstanding, and it's been one of the differentiating factors when they have come to qualifying very well in terms of overall positions and also class positions and not kill. They really did demonstrate the ability to do well there, with the fact that in the end all three wins went to the pair of them in the Pro-Am class. Now, your winners coming into this round, we did see at Silverstone, well, overall in the races from races 1 through to 3, it was Jamie Dory who returned to the top step after a long hiatus. We saw Nick Clemens, your Pro-Am driver, take the win in class and overall in race number 2, with Jamie Dory being the leading pro directly behind him. And then in race 3, it was Kieran Sharp who returned to winning ways. In the Pro-Am class, well, it was Kieran Smart, Nick Clemens and Stuart Winers. So the big three in the Pro-Am class joining each other in victory over the races at Silverstone. Will we see things change up here? Well, that's what we'll have to wait and see. But we're expecting the favourites to really be the ones at the front of the field. But then again, if they should take each other off the circuit at any point or make a mistake, you could have other names come up, including Nigel Stock for Crest Autosport. And well, Nigel Stock, he definitely found himself in the firm grasp of battling at Silverstone. And some would say if it weren't for a few incidents and a few mistimed moments, not to critique him, but the fact he looked to the passes perhaps at not the most opportune moment and therefore went too soon or went too late, he could have perhaps been a prime winner as well over the course of the Silverstone races. But that's the thing about these Legends cars as well. You have to pick your chances wisely from circuit to circuit. The more draft-orientated circuits, such as Silverstone National and also Brands Hatch Indy, which we'll see again at the end of the season, well, those will be the circuits whereby being smart with the draft is just as important as being an absolute maestro at the technical challenge. But a bit of an excursion there. That was Ben Altria running wide, albeit he's rejoined there as he's coming down the hill. Was hold up a second. That's Phil McDougall, who takes a very quick dance to the, well, not the stewards there, but to the marshal's post as he comes out of turn number 8, gets it turned around in the 105, and as quickly as he gets it turned around, it comes around on him again because he's got grass on those tyres. He needs to get the tyres now back into a stable state here. Well, mistakes are easy to make, and well, he finds himself paying the price for that one, but lap times are gradually starting to come on in as we look to Lewis Mason here, the Aztec Racing 991 driver, who right now yet to get a lap on the board, but I believe he is just about to, albeit he's got a number of drivers around him and behind him. In front of him is Nick Clemens, who we're going to jump on board with here for a flying lap of the circuit. So making his way across the timeline, heading into the opening corner. Uphill for a left-hander he goes in top gear. You notice losing speed there as he heads uphill towards turn number 2. And now through the right-hander, a dab of the throttle down to 4th. And now flat out into turn number 3 before lifting off the throttle at the apex in order to get the car under control, but runs a little bit deep there. And has to fight with the steering wheel now as he makes his way through the depression and all the way up towards turn number 4. Now a brief breather before he suddenly finds himself back on the brakes. Where will he brake? And he'll brake just at the 50-metre board there as he comes all the way down to 3rd gear. Nice and slow on entry to get a quick exit, and through 4, now into 5. Rolling the car around. The long right-hander, it never seems to end, and suddenly it does. And immediately now you've got plenty of camber in the road as he comes down into turn number 6, and through the right into left of 7. Through the gooseneck he comes, and now down in towards turn number 8. Early on the brakes here because the camber of the road will carry the car away and send it on long with understeer, but he gets absolutely nailed on there. And now through the kink of number 9 and in towards 10, passing the motorcycle chicane, which we're not using today. As he heads in towards turn number 11, he'll need a smooth exit out of here to get into the right under turn 12. And hold on, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to go over the mountain. And there he goes, leaping his way on over as Jamie Dory's had a spin there, but it's on the grass. And Clemens now through the slaloms here. It's all about holding as much speed from apex to apex. Dab the throttle every time on exit, and from 3rd gear down to 2nd as he heads into turn 17, through the right hander, back on the throttle immediately, and now to turn 18 here, just to dab of the brakes, get the weight over the nose, and back on the throttle as quickly as possible as you head towards the line. And from Nick Clemens, well, it was definitely a ferocious lap there, a very on the limits lap from Nick Clemens, but what's it going to be? He was 3rd as a result of going onto lap, but he does improve and stays in 3rd. Well, 1 minute 36.164, and will right now only a half a hundredth off of none other than your Pro-Am provisional pole sitter of Kieran Smart. But from one Kieran to another, well, it's the Smart Kieran who's currently in 2nd, but it's the Sharp one who's at the top end of the field, and he is looking razor sharp, it must be said there. And it is Kieran Sharp right now for the Sim Racing Collective, who seems to be in a world of his own in qualifying on a 1 minute 35.291. And well, from speaking to some of the drivers in the practice session, well, a couple of them were happy to get into the 36s, but when they did see Kieran Sharp set a 35 in practice pace, the immediate reaction was, surely that's got to be a lap with an off track on it, because that cannot be possible. Well, it definitely is possible, because that time is illegal. If it's on our timing tower, it is a legally registered time here. And Kieran Sharp right now absolutely blazing around here. His teammate Andrew Pike, well, he's going nice and slowly. I think he's waiting for Kieran to come up behind him so the two of them can work together again. They've got half the qualifying session still left to go. We haven't got Alan McCain out there at the moment. I wonder if Alan's going to be starting from the pit lane for the purposes of race number 1. We don't have any penalties of the like carrying over, as I'm to understand it, coming into this round. So I think for Alan, it is one of those situations whereby he's even having technical issues with the car, or alternatively he's deciding to take it easy and avoid qualifying. I think the confidence and the fact he might be able to make up the places when we do go into the race. But still, is that confidence placed well, or is it misplaced? Time will tell. As Andrew Pike right now tucking in behind Kieran Sharp, and I get the feeling here that Kieran said to Andrew, look, follow me, I'll take you around, let's try and build up the speed, let's give you a tow as well to help you up the order, because now Pike has dropped to 8th place with an improvement for Ben Altrier, who's moved up into 6th. We also had an improvement. Stuart Winus now moves to the top of the prime pile in 2nd place overall, and look how close Pike is now getting to the back of Sharp as they head over the rise down the mountain. Well, from turn 11 in towards turn number 12, I think he's now starting to realise a bit more speed out there. He just needed somebody to give him that inspiration, as Carl Thompson has moved up into 12th place, the last of our valid lap setting drivers. As Pike runs a little bit deep there down to turn number 17, he'll be using that experience, however, to know in the dirty air of another car in the race, you can go very deep there. You've got to brake nice and early, even more so in that concertina effect. But onto a lap he goes then, and we'll see him make his way on around the circuit now. And what can Pike achieve here in the draft of Kieran Sharp? Well, we will see. But what you'll also see here is the difference in the lap, where Sharp is the leader of the two cars, and you'll notice some slight differences in how Pike approaches it as he touches the grass there, and as he does come through turn 2 into 3, the rear of the car just lets go on that left-hand side rear tyre, and well, he's going to be absolutely gutted about that one, because it was looking a very smooth run initially, but just carried a bit too much speed over the crest of turn number 2. So easy to do, even more so when you have got the car in front of you, gifting you a couple more miles an hour in terms of top-end speed. So he'll get ready to go again, and I think Kieran Sharp will potentially now just back off and let Pike catch back up in gradual course. But from the Sim Racing Collective here, we come to the CXR Project Black Privateer of Phil McDougall here, and right now, I believe running today, the 105 and the Mountain Dew scheme. I was about to say 7 up there, but Mountain Dew seems to be all the thrill these days, and as he draws his way out of turn 3, well, right now, Phil McDougall definitely putting himself right in the middle of the pram field, 5th place in class, 9th overall. That's not too bad, to be fair, and a commendable lap time of 1 minute 37.7 to move ahead of Nigel Stock, who is the next prime in the order, 4th in class, 7th overall. He would need to find the best part of a further 7/10ths out there. So Stock getting close to breaking into the high 36s. And well, from Nigel Stock to then Nick Clemens, Kieran Smart and Stuart Winus, the gap is quite sizable. It is practically a whole second at that point if he wants to get close to them. So Winus, Smart and Clemens, the top 3 in the championship, definitely asserting why they're the top 3 in terms of status in the Pram class, as Kieran Sharp goes even faster at the top, a 1 minute 35.110. I reckon this so, ladies and gentlemen, if Kieran Sharp could pick up a toe off of somebody on the straights, particularly the run from turn 3 into 4, alternatively the run out of the final corner, I reckon he could do a 34.9 here. He's got a lot of pace he's bringing to the table, but I think he's gone to the pit lane, and with 3.5 minutes to go, I wouldn't be surprised now if his thought process is going to be, unless I can help out Andrew Pike, there's no point in me being out on the circuit anymore, because I've done enough there, unless Winus, Smart or Clemens can pull off some magic. Well, we'll have to see, as just in front of Clemens, that is Adam Delmont heading towards the line, and Adam Delmont right now, 2nd of the pros, 5th overall. He's doing quite well, to be fair. However, he's not quite close enough as Clemens moves up into 3rd place for 36.121. You can see that toe there, putting him at only 1,000th of a Winus's pole time in the Pram class. It is getting very close at the top end of the field, and Adam Delmont right now trying to find a bit more time as we ride on board the nose here with the NXTGEN Racing green driver as he heads around for what will be one of his last qualifying laps. It'll be this one plus one more, and can he find the time in order to get himself towards that front row? Because right now, the fact that he's 1.5 seconds off of Kieran Sharp, that's not to be unfair to him, but he'll be very discouraged by that, even though he's ahead of the rest of the pros by a considerable margin, with Ben Altrier being the next 4/10ths down. He'll be thinking, what do I have to do to find a way to get against Kieran Sharp? Well, first thing, he's got to keep it on the tarmac there. He almost ran wide coming out of turn at number 5, albeit it was right on the limit there of the white lines, as we see a bit of a run wide in front of him there for Clemens, but down into the brakes and through turn number 8. And well, right now, Adam Delmont, I don't think he's got the confidence here in terms of the way the car's behaving versus the circuit. And this is always challenging when it's a new circuit for many. Indeed, I suspect the majority of the drivers here do not have that much experience driving around Cadwell Park, even on the simulator in reality. It's a beautiful circuit to be a spectator at. It must be said, one of the most picturesque in the country, albeit it's been competing with Anglesey circuit. I mean, Anglesey does have the Welsh coast in order to be appreciated, whereas here at Cadwell Park, you don't have the coast, but you have plenty of trees and what will be glass some Florner to contest with, but as he makes way out the corner, and I stumble over my own words, well, right now 2 minutes left on the clock here, and Adam Delmont will squeeze in 2 more laps, but this lap has not been an improvement for Delmont, and he stays in 5th place there. He's just not quite able to find the time and get himself back into the 36s. But in terms of other drivers who are trying to improve, well, Stuart Winers, he's had it all go wrong. Where's that? That's at turn 17. He's gone on long and onto the runoff area there, but he brings it back together, so he'll get one more crack at this in order to try and put himself on class pole position a little bit further. And he's only 1,000th ahead of Clemens, but in fact he parks up the car and says, I don't need to do it anymore. He's not got a car that can do it anymore, so therefore now he's leaving it in the lap of the racing gods as to whether Nick Clemens or Kieran Smart can potentially outpace him. Coming to our South African participant here, that Duncan Mariah. Well, we can see Mariah here heading down in towards turn 18, and he's currently on an improving lap in the middle sector. Jamie Doria 37.089, not quite able to break into the 36s. He had one last shot at it, but across the line goes Duncan Mariah, and as he does, he was 12th before the lap, and he now moves up to 10th. That's a great improvement there, improving by the best part of a second, and moves to a 37.46 there. That puts him in 5th in prime class. Andrew Pike suddenly moves up into 5th. Adam Delmont, meanwhile, right, Delmont at the moment is flying out there. Opening sector, a 28.95. To put you in the frame of mind, it's very rare that we have seen a 28. In fact, we have not seen anybody set a 28. They've all been at 29s. The next fastest has been a 29.13 in that opening sector, stripped by Stuart Winers, and then Kieran Sharp, a 29.17 on his last lap to improve. So right now, Adam Delmont, can he spring a surprise here? Can he pull an ace up his sleeve? And well, here he comes across the line. Has it been enough? It's not enough. It's a 36.251, but it's nowhere near enough. And look at that, from 2nd through to 5th, it is only a 10th as the checker flag comes down. Adam Delmont, in the end, he found magic in the opening sector, but the other 2 sectors, no magic at all. And well, he's having to settle for 5th place at his highest qualifying position yet. But as we look to Duncan Mariah, as he makes his way on through, we've got a spun out car there on the apex exit of the mountain. That was Mark Hughes there, who's parked up for a brief moment. I suspect he'll be coming back around or turning to the pit shortly. Lewis Mason is into the pit lane. He's not happy with how that's gone, but that's going to be the best he can do in 12th place. Duncan runs wide, into the barrier. That is a shame there for Duncan Wright, because he was looking much fast there towards the end. And well, here comes Andrew Pike. Meanwhile, he's on a personal best in Sector 1. He's on a personal best in Sector 2. Can he go 3 for 3 here and suddenly move his way all the way up? He's currently 6th, 1.5 seconds off a pole man, his teammate Kieran Sharp. And at the end of that lap, it's not an improvement for Andrew Pike, and I believe that was invalidated out there, so he stays in 6th place, and he'll be gutted about that as he brings his lap to a close. Nigel Stock decides to take to the escape road there to cut the circuit off short and return to the pit lane, and that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, and well, what a session it was. But Kieran Sharp, the man to be, and what a pole time, a 35.110, a whole second faster than what anybody else has been able to achieve here at Cadwell Park. Surely this means that Kieran Sharp has made himself the favourite, but of course qualifying is just one part of the story. We have 3 races and the grid will be set based on where they've qualified for race number 1, but races 2 and 3, well, if he finds himself at the tall end of the field in race 1, he'll have to fight his way through for races 2 and 3, and that will present a challenge most certainly. Without further ado, it's time to head to the grid, ladies and gentlemen, for our opening race of the day. And as we patiently wait for the transition to the grid, it does seem to be taking a little bit longer than usual, but still sometimes this takes time, and all drivers will very shortly be making their way into their grid slots. But definitely a surprising outcome then, qualifying the gap from pole sitter to the rest of the field. But that could be a sign of a bit of magic here from our pole sitter, no doubt about it. But here we go then to the grid for our first race of the day, ladies and gentlemen. And this is how they'll line up for the opening race of round number 5 of Season 3 of the NXTGEN Racing Legends Cup, brought to you on iRacing. It'll be Kieran Sharp then with an absolute behemoth of a pole lap for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. A 1 minute 35.110 puts him a whole second ahead of the field. But in terms of where he starts, he only starts a couple attempts ahead of second place man and prime pole sitter, Scotland's Stuart Winus. What a lap from him. Behind him by a 1,000th, Nick Clemens for iRacing Esports, and then a further 38 thousandths behind Kieran Smart, who completes your second row for Track Scotland. And then you've only got to go a further 1/10 back, and you'll find Adam Delmont for NXTGEN Green, before you finally find a sizable gap of 2.5 tenths to Andrew Pint for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. Nigel Stock starts 7th for Quest Autosport with a season best qualifying performance, ahead of Ben Altrier for Full Tilt Motorsport. And then we have Jamie Dory for NXTGEN Racing and Duncan Rye for Goldwing Motorsports, who complete your top 10. Outside the top 10, in 11th place, it'll be Phil McDougall for CXR Project Black, ahead of Aztec Racing's Lewis Mason. And then we'll see the privateers, Mark Hughes and Carl Thompson, line up on the 7th row of the grid, with your final row of the grid to complete your 16 starters, consisting of Alan McCain for iRacing Esports and Sam Smith, his teammate. Neither of them setting a valid qualifying lap, and therefore starting from the back of the field and looking to carve the way through. But I believe for Alan McCain, there might be some technical issues with the car. Will we see him on the grid? We will have to wait and see. But Sam Smith's definitely there, and we are just waiting to see if McCain is able to get into his grid slot. If not, we may be going racing with only 15 cars here. But for Kieran Sharp, well, it's a long run towards turn number 1, and it's one where he's on the inside, but he needs to nail at start, because if he doesn't, he'll be swallowed up by the rest of the field, because further back will Stuart Winus, Nick Clemens, Kieran Smart, and then Adam Delmont. Well, Adam Delmont starts 5th, but he knows if he can get a lightning quick start like he has previously at the Silverstone National Circuit, he may find himself contesting the lead right at the end of the opening corner. But the grid is set, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to go racing for the first time today, and it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And it's lights out, away we go for the opening race of round 5 of the championship as they roar the way away. A great start from Kieran Sharp. Stuart Winus covers off Nick Clemens, but Kieran Smart meanwhile falls behind Adam Delmont as they head up the hill. 2 wide further on back as our race leader tears his way away. And as they all come up the rise, cold tyres here and 2 wide. It's not the best of combinations as they make the way over the crest of turn 2. In towards 3 they go, and Nigel Stock holding off Jamie Dory for now, as Dory has got ahead of Altrier at the start of the race. You can see Altrier there in the 504 immediately glued to the back of them as they head onwards towards turn number 4. 2 by 2 they come, and the battle for third takes centre stage here. It's going to be Adam Delmont looking up the inside of Nick Clemens, looking to make another place, but under the brakes they go, and on that inside line, not as confident as Clemens around the outside, and then it's a short apex and a tight exit should he take a tight line, and therefore has to back off. Nigel Stock, meanwhile, still fighting with Jamie Dory. Dory playing the risk game there of using the camber of the road to hold the outside through 5 into 6. That's going to get very tasty here as they come down in the taps to in. Phil McDougall goes on around to the field, careens its way into the way with Legends Machine and Sonny. That's McDougall, that's Hughes. They all get ejected stage left, right, and centre. And Mark Hughes gets it back together, so does McDougall, but that's damage on the cars. And Carl Thompson survives all the cows around him to gain 3 places as a result. As he moves up into 11th place, now he's got the pressure. Duncan Rye is immediately inside there, but cuts it short, cuts it deep. And 2 while they come into the mountain then, and well over the crest they go. And Carl Thompson gets back ahead for a brief moment, but a bit of wheel spin there into slalom S's. Well, someone's got to back out here, and Carl Thompson does so. And in the end, Thompson, for all the places he's gained, he suddenly loses 2 of them as quickly as he's gained them. But emerging up through turn 17, we see Duncan Ryan going deep. Lewis Mason gets ahead, and with 1 lap complete out of 10, here's the field after an open lap. And it's Kieran Sharp who leads, but only by 2 tenths over Stuart Winus, the prime leader. Then it's Nick Clemens in 3rd, Adam Delmont in 4th, followed by Andrew Pint in 5th, who's falling away from the top 4. He's got Kieran Smart for close company in 6th, ahead of Nigel Stock, followed by Ben Altrier, who then is holding on to 8th for the moment, holding on to 7th at the moment as he makes his way past Nigel Stock. And Stock there running a bit deep through turn number 2, and they change the places, but here comes Stock back once again here, and Altrier going defensive as they head up the rise in towards turn number 4. But is it going to be Stock? Will it be Altrier? We will see as they head on to the brakes, and Altrier on that inside line, and right now holds it firm as Dory taps through to Stock. Stock goes long, but he gets it back under control, and Jamie Dory immediately making sure he doesn't go diving into the corner any further, so as not to gain from the tap and not to take an unfair advantage. Well, great racing respect shown between them, and Sam Smith meanwhile completes your top 10 just behind, within 3 seconds to the best rest of the length, Duncan Rye, who is battling with Lewis Mason, and Carl Thompson's trying to chase after them. Elsewhere, Phil McDougall and Mark Hughes, after their contact coming down through turn number 7, they both came into the pit lane for a fast repair, but they're both back out there, and sadly we didn't have Alan McCain make his way to the grid for the first race of the day. Now, intriguingly, with everything starting to settle down now into the pack-based racing that we know and love from the Legends, Kieran Sharp may have been the man to beat in qualifying, but he is most certainly right now not looking unbeatable here under race conditions. He's only got a gap of 6 tenths, if that, as they make the way towards the end of this lap, and he was under a lot of pressure from Winus coming out of the final corner and on to lap number 2, but something tells me this time with 7/10 of a second of a gap heading down the start-finish line straight, he'll be feeling a bit safer this time around, and I think perhaps playing it protectively and rather cautiously with cold tyres in the open lap, knowing he's got the pace once he's got the tyre heat. Nick Clemens up the inside there, Winus moves into second place for now, but still Stuart Winus there right behind him as they roll the way around and down through turn number 3. We're looking back from the rear of the second place, number 13, and Winus and Delmont right there with him, with Andrew Pike now starting to fall away a little bit, and the battle for second through to 4th is absconding, whereas Andrew Pike right now is just trying to keep Kieran Smart behind. There you can see Delmont taking a look up the inside. Winus does not react, lets it go, and I think Winus right now of the mindset which is let's just work together, but Delmont there making a ham sandwich out of turn number 4, and in doing so is going to force himself and Winus backwards, and that's going to give Clemens confidence here. Can he potentially break away? We'll have to see, because of course you need to get at least 1.5 seconds clear if you want to be out of the slipstream, ideally 2 seconds in order to break the draft, so it's not over yet as they roll off at turn number 8 and up the hill they come very shortly then in towards the mountain. Further on back, Ben Altrier, well, he's still trying to pick his way past Nigel Stock. These two absolutely fighting as much as they're taking quarters, and Sam Smith up the inside now versus Altrier in towards turn number 11. And well, I think here it's going to be about Altrier going around the outside to inside, but then Smith says, I can do that too. They're too wide on exit. Fantastic racing between them. And well, Sam Smith in the end, he doesn't hold back, neither does Altrier, but Sam Smith, they're really landing a lovely overtake on his rival. And now in towards turn number 17, they come a little bit squirrely there under brake, and Altrier just catches the car in time. And well, that would have been a lock up on the front brakes, and the rear brakes letting go. And that car's sliding left, right, and centre. He loses the rear of it coming out the final corner. And in the end, just a bit too much tyre heat and too much pressure on the front tyres, and suddenly it went on around, but he takes it onto the grass, then spins it back around to get away from all the drives out there, and Altrier very shortly will be back up to racing speed, but that will absolutely make him fume in the fact he did so well to be in that fight, but then has lost out as a result of a mistake. Duncan right at the inside there, Thompson in towards turn number 1, and now covers off the inside into turn 2, so Thompson will look behind him here as we ride on board with the number 14, and we'll make the way through the right-hander at this point. Thompson close. Is he close enough to think about a return move? The answer is yes, he is. Now the draft will be strong here. We know how strong it is just between two cars. We can gain a whole half a second on a long straight. And Murray's going deep to the inside and trying to defend as much as he possibly can. Thompson looking all the way around the houses here, and in the end has to back off because he hasn't got quite enough speed to go all the way around and keep it too wide in towards turn number 5. But good attempt there from the privateer. Confidence is growing from Thompson. That is most certain, given how he started when he made his way into the practice session this evening versus now how it's going. You could definitely see he started to feel more comfortable in the machine and getting stuck into the fight, and that's what we love to see as he fights over 7th place in the Prime class and 11th overall. But from them, we look a little bit further down the order to Phil McDougall, and well, right now the man who had the moment coming on through the gooseneck where it all went wrong when he tapped the rear of Jamie Dory's car. Well, the 105 driver here still in a bit of a lonely 14th place, but there's still plenty more races to come, and he can use every single lap he turns here to gain a bit more experience and build up his consistency. So that's where you don't want to retire from these races wherever possible, because you can learn a lot just by putting lap after lap in and getting a feel for how the car develops over the race. As the same for Mark Hughes here in the 495, he's just putting in the laps right now, and that lap time will gradually improve, no doubt about it. But looking back to the front of the field, Kieran Sharp is now starting to open up a gap. He did seem to have a bit of a slow start by comparison with his rivals. However, now he's got the confidence. Nick Clemens in second, where he's fighting with Adam Delmont, who's gone up his inside there into turn 4. And Adam Delmont right now, I think, has also found a bit of magic out here. And can Delmont now start to close up behind Sharp? We will see. We are towards the halfway point of this race, already onto our 5th lap of 10. But it does look as though right now, Delmont, despite his struggles in qualifying, not able to put it on the front row of the grid versus Sharp, where he's now starting to find the pace. In fact, has just set on the previous lap a 35.94. Something tells me that had the assistance of a bit of slipstream, where Sharp's lap may have not. However, the point being that Delmont now starting to see 35s, and that will now start to see him close down that advantage that Sharp has in terms of natural lap pace, albeit we'll have to see what he can do here now that he's moved into second place at the end of this lap and going on to lap number 6, whether he can maintain those 35s when he hasn't got a slipstream to use to his advantage. But for the time being, Nick Clemens, the prime leader, just tucks in behind Delmont and says, okay, well still, this isn't my race, and I just need to make sure I stay ahead of Kieran Smart and Stuart Winus, who are back here in 5th and 6th 5th respectively. Between the Pram drivers is Andrew Pike, and Andrew Pike, having started in 6th place, has moved up to 4th as they head into the second half of this race. On the rise they go, and as they do, well, top 6 right now, absolutely flying strong out there, no doubt about it. Jamie Dory here looking for the move on Nigel Stock, and we're going up the inside then to turn number 1. Stock backs off there and tries to tuck into the toe, and I think trying to time the potential move here in order to make some progress into turn number 2, but he's too far back to go for it this time, as much as he's very eager to do so. And Nigel Stock right now, when we jump on board here with the number 30 and the Crest Autosport machine, as close as it previously was, well, right now it's not close enough to think about a move. In the toe here, he was 4 tenths behind X in turn number 3, and will very shortly, by the time he gets to turn number 4, he's going to be within 2 tenths, if not closer. But the thing is, he won't be close enough to look for that potential move. He's going to have to wait. And the thing is, with these Legends machines, they pick up a huge amount of speed in the draft, and it can give you the confidence. It can make you quite overzealous to want to go onto the brakes as late as humanly possible, but that speed difference is noticeable. When you've gained 2 to 3 miles an hour more than your normal braking point, or when you do come to going onto the brakes for a corner, you have to brake considerably earlier, particularly when you're in a corner such as turn 8 here, which is downhill, because otherwise the car just will go away from the apex and, well, it will understeer wide, and you lose all the time you've gained because of the overspeed. Now staying on board with Stock for now as the sparks fly from the under tray there of another Jamie Dory's car. Stock lose it there, coming out to turn number 12 onto the mountain, and, well, just dipping the rear left tyre a little bit wide, where he'll get it away from the wall there. Did very well to make sure it didn't cream into the Armco barrier, but for Nigel Stock, that's going to be a frustrating one. More drama. Hold up a second. There's drama abounding now as they're about to get onto lap number 7, but that is Nick Clemens and Stuart Wyness have had a bit of a moment there. Andrew Pike is with them. We'll have to get a replay of this very shortly. We've had Ben Altrier towed to the pit lane as well for an altercation of some description, so there's been drama over the last lap or so, and, well, what exactly has happened to cause all of this, we will find out in very short order. But before we do that, we need to come back to Duncan Mariah, who's still enjoying a great scrap with Thompson, and Carl Thompson defending to the inside to turn 1, but he hasn't got enough of a run behind him into the opening quarter just to hold that inside line and force Duncan Mariah to back off. Mariah knows he can go around the outside there, but they've changed places for a brief moment. But let's come back to some earlier action, and on lap number 5, this is what happened to Ben Altrier. He'd already had 1 spin on lap 4, and on lap number 5, heading in towards the slaloms, what happened here? Well, took too much apex to the first one, that unsettled the car and sent it on around. So for Altrier, that's where his woes started, although brilliant 360-degree turn there to get himself back up to speed. And then subsequently, what happened to Nigel Stock on lap number 6? This was a bit of drama for Nigel Stock, and that was where he lost it coming out to turn number 12, as you may remember, in fact. So there, he almost went to the barrier, but not quite so. And then this was Nick Clemens at the end of that lap, under pressure from Adam Delmont, made his way through turn number 17, ran a little bit wide there, but got caught on the runoff area, and the rear of the car letting go. Adam Delmont squeezing up the inside. Oh, no! And that is a huge moment there, because that was essentially a tap, as Andrew Pike tried to go past the car of Nick Clemens, in the end getting tapped there by the barge board on the front, or the roll bars, and as a result it meant that Andrew Pike was sent round and Stuart Wyness losing it by reacting to the incident in front of him. So all 3 drivers there being caught out. It was a small mistake for Nick Clemens, but in the end it added to a domino effect for Andrew Pike and also Stuart Wyness, as suddenly, when we return to your live racing with 3 laps to go, including the one they're on, Kieran Smart now finds himself lead in the Pram class, but look who's already caught back up to him. Nick Clemens is right there with him as they power the way up towards turn number 4. And can Clemens find a way now to make the move? And you can understand if Kieran Smart at this point will figure himself, right, I cannot let that man get past me, because otherwise he will take the Pram Championship lead after the first race of the day. Of course, there are 3 races, but it's all about the points as we head towards the midway point of the season now. And, well, with it in mind, now the points really will mean prizes as they go deeper and deeper into the campaign. But Clemens here is looking very close. He's thinking about the inside into turn 8, but goes against it in the end as we ride on board with number 013 and heading in towards turns 11 and 12 here very shortly. Where will he go for the move? Will we go for it this time, or will he wait? Well, the opportune moment normally is on the start for this straight, coming out turn number 18. There's a big snatch of the steering wheel there for both drivers. Nick Clemens going very sideways. They are absolutely fighting and soaring at the wheel, the pair of them, and this is what we mean by the fact that if you keep it carbon consistent, you'll be good enough at Cadwell Park. But for these drivers, when they're at the top end of their class right now, they are driving on the limit. They're driving out of control essentially, and they're having to constantly fight with the car. Now Nick Clemens is very close here coming out of the final corner. He's only 3/10 behind as they power their way along the straight, and to give you an idea of the speed, he's already up to 106 miles an hour. Remember, in their own air they were coming up to the opening quarter at 107 miles an hour. Clemens 108 there and backing off into the opening quarter. If he carried on, I think he would have gone towards the apex at 109 miles an hour, but then he would have been at risk of understeering in that dirty air. But Clemens right now giving you a demonstration of how powerful that toe is down the start for this straight and why he will be considering using that to his advantage either on this lap or the final lap that follows it, because we've got 2 to go. Kieran Smart's defending now on the inside. It's turn 4. Nick Clemens looking around the outside. 2 wide they come then, and well, Clemens is going to try and pinch off the nose of Smart. They rub doors as they come through turn number 5, and in the end Clemens is going all the way around the outside. Can he get it done? The answer is yes, he can. It's a smooth move, and Nick Clemens returns to the prime lead with Kieran Smart right behind him, but already falling slightly back. Further on behind, we've got Pro and battling the plenty here, as this is Sam Smith versus Nigel Stock versus Lewis Mason, albeit Smith immediately trying to run away from the proceedings here as he tries to run away with 4th in Pro-Am or 8th on the road overall. And Nigel Stock and Lewis Mason here, well, they're fighting each other still. Mason trying to come back at Stock, heading in towards turns 6 and 7. You can see what he wanted to do was stay low then, try and cut a line to get to the inside of Stock, but if he carried on that path for much longer, he would have gone straight to the side of him as he goes very deep under, breaking out the inside. A big lunge into turn 8. Nigel Stock saw it coming, immediately let off the throttle and waited to turn in there, as otherwise it would have been tears for the pair of them. But Lewis Mason in the end, well, going for the ballistic missile approach, and it worked out. Nigel Stock very wary of it, and well, Duncan Rise right now is on the back of this as they head in towards the slaloms. 2 wide they enter, 2 wide they come in the first corner. The second one, it goes wrong. Rise go one way, then the other, and Nigel Stock helps him on his way there, but I think the car was already unsettled, and in the end it made its way to the path for Nigel Stock, whether they liked it or not. But that's why you don't normally go 2 wide through the slaloms, whether it's on 2 wheels or 4, and well, Duncan Wright at that point losing out there, whereas Nigel Stock gains. But the final lap is underway, and right now, can anybody stop Kieran Sharp? By looks things, no, not even the grass of Cadwell Park can do that as he pushes it to the track limits there for a brief moment, but he is only what is 1 lap away from seeing the first victory of the day, and Adam Delmont a further 7 seconds behind as he runs very wide. They're coming out of turn number 5. Well, Adam Delmont is pushing, he's trying to find the time, and you can understand if in Delmont's mind right now, it may come across perhaps that he's thinking to himself, what pace have I not got versus Kieran Sharp? Well, the mathematics would suggest he's right now missing the best part of a second, because Kieran Sharp on that last lap set the fastest lap of the race, a 35.49. Not quite the lap time set for pole of 35.110, but an absolutely sensational lap in every regard. Kieran Sharp really is in a class of his own, and well, could he potentially make it 3 out of 3 here today? If so, that would be a huge achievement. It's very rare we see a driver get 3 out of 3 in a given day, but speaking of the man who might be able to do it, well, this will be the first race of the day, and as the checker flag waves, Kieran Sharp was faultless in qualifying, and he's absolutely been faultless in the race as he takes victory here in race number 1 at Cadwell Park. In the bottom of the picture, that will be Mark Hughes going on to his final lap. Adam Delmont will take the runner-up spot overall in Pro Class there in 2nd place, and in the battle for prime victory in the 3rd place spot on the overall podium, it's Nick Clemens who just outpaces Kieran Smart, with Andrew Pike completing your top 5 ahead of Stuart Winnis in 6th. Then it's a further 4 seconds before we get to Jamie Dory, who takes 7th, a good performance from him. And then we do have Sam Smith heading towards the line, and well, here he comes for 4th place of the Pro-Am class. Give him a round of applause for iRace Esports. An absolutely superb job having started from the back of the grid in 16th place, but he will take that 8th place, ahead of Nigel Stock, who just fends off Lewis Mason in the drag race to line. That completes your top 10, and then we will have Carl Thompson. Oh, goodness me, what on earth's happened here? It's an absolute boneyard of Ford Legends machines. And in the end, well, as they make the way out of turn number 18, around the outside goes Phil McDougall. That's brave. And well, he wants to place, and he's going to get it. He will take 7th place in the Pro-Am class on the road, or 11th overall. Brilliant bit of opportunism there for the 6R Project Black driver, ahead of Carl Thompson on his debut. Puts in a solid 12th. And Duncan Ryan takes 13th place there, ahead of Mark Hughes. Well, he's a little way away from completing his final lap of the day. We've had Ben Altrier already make his way into the pit lane. He'll be classified as 15th for the finish, albeit the car has been in the pit since the end of lap number 6, so therefore for Altrier that will be a non-finishers classified, I believe. But your last finisher on the road then will be Mark Hughes, and he will finish on the lead lap here. Well, I think he was hoping for a bit more after his solid start, but the instant between himself and Phil McDougall in the end upsetting that momentum. But still 2 more races to go for Hughes, and still plenty of time out there to be found. He finishes 14th or 10th in Pro-Am. So that completes your first race of the day, ladies and gentlemen, and Kieran Sharp right now, what a drive from him. Under early pressure at the start of the race, but that early pressure was also him letting the tyres naturally come up to temperature, and then he always had the ace up his sleeve of being the fastest man out there, as we do see the other Sim Racing Collective car there of Andrew Pike decide to roll itself over on the tyre barrier coming up towards the pit lane, but Kieran Sharp in the end, the man to beat, no doubt about it. And Sam Smith, 16th place start, 8th place of the road, a brilliant finish from him in the 4th place prime machine, and then number 27 it seems to be heading upwards today here at Cadwell Park. We look forward to plenty more from him in race number 2. But with that, let's go to your race results, and as we do look to the seeding view here are your results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And as we can see, after one race out of 3 for round number 5 of the NXTGEN Racing Legends Cup Season 3, brought to you on iRacing here at Cadwell Park, Kieran Sharp taking victory for the Sim Racing Collective Esports by 8.5 seconds over NXTGEN Green's Adam Delmont. From the top 2 pros, it then came to a prime driver who round off the overall podium, and Nick Clemens adds another win to his basket for the Pro Am class for iRacing Esports, head of runner-up in prime, 4th place overall, Kieran Smart for Track Scotland, and then Andrew Pike rounding off the top 5 there for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, and I think will be feeling a little bit frustrated he missed out on the podium after that contact between himself and Stuart Winess. Stuart Winess, speaking of which, 3rd place in Prime, 6th overall there for Track Scotland after that late spin, ahead of Jamie Dory, 7th for NXTGEN Racing, and then Sam Smith for iRacing Esports, 4th place in Pro-Am and 8th overall, holding off the charges of Crest Autosports' Nigel Stock and Lewis Mason for Aztec Racing, who just missed out versus Nigel Stock, but still round off the top 10. 6R Project Black's Phil McDougall taking a bit of an opportunistic run for 11th, but he got it right at the close. Well, Carl Thompson and Duncan Rice's late instant there caused the two of them to fall down the order, with Thompson 12th ahead of Goldwyn Motorsportsman Wright in 13th. And then we saw Mark Hughes, the last of your lead lap finishers there for Full Tilt Motors, well, for the privateer outfit, I should say, as I misread the team names there, taking 14th. 5 laps down, and I believe he may be actually classified as a finisher, as he was 5 laps off the race, but that's normally how far we go down in terms of classified finishers at NXTGEN Racing. Bedell Trier there for Full Tilt Motorsport, and then Alan McCain, unfortunately, not able to make it to the grid due to technical issues, with the iRacing Esports driver having to settle for 16th, and I suspect that's where he'll start if he's able to make the grid for race number 2. So brilliant race number 1, but race number 2 is already around the corner, and with it 10 more laps of absolutely fruity fun. And we're going to be seeing that in approximately 10 minutes time, ladies and gentlemen, so don't go anywhere, you won't miss it. We'll be back shortly, but in the intervening period, do let us know what you enjoyed most of race number 1 and what you're expecting to happen in race number 2, and we will leave you a word from our premier sponsor here at NXTGEN Racing for this season, and that is none other than Doble Motorcycles. We will see you again very shortly. Speaking of Mikey Doble Racing, if you'd like to support Mikey as he pushes it to the limit out on track, you can do so by following the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page as seen on screen. Additionally, if you want to represent the 88 Army at a BTCC weekend, Mikey Doble Racing has some fantastic merchandise available just for you, as may be found either via the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page or alternatively in the Doble Motorcycles store at dobledirect.co.uk. Don't miss out on being a part of the 88 Army today. We are back, ladies and gentlemen, for our second race of round number 5 of Season 3 of the NXTGEN Racing Legends Cup, as brought to you here on iRacing. Race number 1, well, it was an absolute cracker. We may have a small grid, but what we lack in quantity, we're definitely making up for in terms of the quality of the racing. And we got to see up front, well, it was a Sim Racing Collective machine that led the way. Not quite the 57 of Andrew Pike, who in the end managed to bring it on home in the bottom end of the top 5. A good result from him, but it was his teammate, Kieran Sharp, who absolutely ran rampant with the lead, albeit under a bit of early pressure, but taking it nice and slow at first and then charge it off. And Andrew Pike, meanwhile, would like to do the same. But of course now, things get shuffled because our second 10-lap race is just around the corner, and we've got a top 15 reverse grid, and it's looking as though at the moment we may only have 15 drivers on the grid, with Alan McCain's car not making it back out of the paddock area. Well, if so, it means we'll have a full reverse grid for races 2 and 3, so therefore it will be the task of Kieran Sharp to have to come all the way from the back of the field, not just once but twice today, if he wants to try and make it 3 wins out of 3. But that's going to be much easier said than done. Nick Clearance, meanwhile, well, he took victory in the Pram class and had to battle hard for it versus Kieran Smart, the two regulars at the very top end of the Pram class, enjoying a great ding-dong scrap. And in between also Stuart Winus getting involved, albeit a spin cost him an opportunity at trying to take home the win. But as all these drivers get themselves set, with 2.5 minutes still left before we do go into the gridding procedure for what is our second race, well, can we get a word or two from one of our drivers? Let's see what we can do. And, well, we're just trying to see who is available at the moment for a quick chat. And I think we might be able to potentially get a word with Stuart Winus. Give us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen, and we will see whether we can bring him on in or get a patch to the car from the second member of the Track Scotland team. So as we do look down to the car of Stuart Winus, and inside the car, give us a brief moment and we will see what we can do to get a word with him. And as we do try to get a patch through to the car now, Stuart, have you got time for a quick word?
Yeah, I've got a quick word, yeah.
Stuart, tough race number 1 in the end. It looked so good at the start and you were battling for the win, and then a late spin seemed to cost you it.
Yeah, I was quite gutted about that. I was like, I was trying to work with Kieran for a bit at the start, but Nick and Adam came by, and then I was like, right, I'll just try and hang on and clip the curb before the mountain, and oh well, that was it. So I was like, okay, and then I was starting to catch up again with Kieran in the back of the pack, but we had a wee bit of contact with Nick, so I had a bit of damage at the end. So.
Well, it's unfortunate, but still plenty more races to come. Race number 2, of course, you'll be starting a little bit further up the road compared to your rivals. How does that make you feel?
A little bit apprehensive, let you know, just try and get through the pack. Maybe that's the next, because obviously I didn't have to battle so much through the pack that last one, so we'll wait and see what happens.
Oh, fair play. Well, with that, Stuart, we'll leave you to it. Good luck in race number 2, and we'll see you at the checkered flag.
See you later, Paul. Cheers.
So hearing there very quickly from our Track Scotland driver, Stuart Winus there, and well, didn't quite work out in race number 1 as he admitted, but still, with the damage, he was still able to get the car home in a decent state and pick up some points, but now he's a bit apprehensive about how things could play out in race number 2, but we will see whether that apprehension is definitely sensible to have or whether it is unnecessary. But still, every driver has their own perspective, of course, and as they all get themselves set now, well, we're only seconds away from heading to the grid for our second race of the day. As Nigel stopped there, we makes his way very quickly to the grass, but he won't be doing that again because now, well, the checkered flag comes out in practice. It's time to head to the grid for race number 2. So as our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for our second race of the day. Well, full reverse grid, it's Duncan Rye who lines up on pole position for Goldwing Motorsports, last of the classified finishers. Mark Hughes will join him on the front row there, the privateer in the 495. Then on row number 2, it's going to be the pairing of Phil McDougall for CXR Project Black and Carl Thompson who starts 4th there, the privateer. Nigel Stock starts 5th for Crest Autosport ahead of Aztec Racing's Lewis Mason, and in 7th on the grid, that's where you'll find your first pro. It'll be Jamie Dory for NXTGEN Racing. He's joined on the 4th row of the grid by Sam Smith for iRacing Esports, but your top 10 rounded off by Andrew Pike for the Sim Racing Collective Esports and Stuart Winus for Track Scotland. Outside of the top 10 in length, it's Nick Clements for iRacing Esports ahead of Kieran Smart, the fellow Track Scotland driver. Then we have Kieran Sharp starting 13th for the Sim Racing Collective Esports ahead of NXTGEN Green's Adam Delmont. And then last but not least, as he was classified as a non-finisher from race number 1, it will be Ben Altrier. But the grid is set, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to go racing once again. And as the lights go on at Cadwell Park, there's only one thing that's certain. Somebody's got to win it. But who will it be? Well, it's lights out and away we go then for the second race of the day. 10 laps get underway, and as they do, Carl Thompson takes a run to the pit lane exit. A slow start from him. He releases the field and through, but Phil Doble gets a good start there. Duncan Rise tucks in behind as they head up the rise. All drivers here on cold tyres, a much colder circuit. See with the cloud coming on over, this may make it a lot more challenging as Lewis Mason there tries to hold the outside line. Bannon with Pike coming down for turn number 3, but Andrew Pike's on the inside here, and he'll try to get a nose ahead and try and close off the door for Mason. He does so now as they head onwards and up the hill they go. Well, the top 4, they're already trying to put each other under pressure. Phil Doble under pressure from Mariah now as he looks around the outside. 2 wide they come into the braking zone, but Mariah goes deep onto the grass, and so does there, while the iRacing Sports Machines, and that is going to be Sam Smith. Oh no! And that's Andrew Pike being ejected out. That's also, I believe that is going to be Lewis Mason who's got caught up with him, and Stuart Winus has also gone wide there as well. So there's been 2 separate incidents in all of it. Well, that is going to be commiseration to Winus and also for Pike. They've both been caught out, but there's more. There's even more of it going wrong as they come down from the gooseneck, and it's Jamie Dory. It's also going to be Stuart White. Well, not Stuart White, it's Kieran Smart who goes all around, and behind him, I believe that's Kieran Sharp who's making great progress, and now has to do it all over again as Cole Thompson's had a spin as well, coming down for turn number 8. Will any of it calm down at this rate? I don't think so, as Sharp and Pike immediately, his teammates now trying to work together and push each other along and get some more momentum going as soon as they can. But with all of that, well, Mark Hughes right now has got Nick Clements over the back of him, but Hughes there just holding his line and sending a message to Clements, which is not going to get it, but he goes round at turn 17. So does Adam Delmont. They're all going round here. It's a freezing cold circuit as the field parks up there. Duncan Ryan coming to a standstill, and well, now as they make the way through, well, we do have a yellow flag, and I believe with it we do have a safety car, ladies and gentlemen, and well, that's no surprise there. We are going to be under safety car conditions, and well, as all the drivers make the way on around here, well, the racing will be suspended, and the automated safety car will pick our drivers up for the first time today. But goodness me, it's absolute drama here at the start, and well, I can imagine we've still got plenty more to come before all is said and done here at the Cadwell Park circuit for our second race. But we are behind the safety car, and well, we will be behind it for the best part of 2 laps here as all the field gets themselves settled back together. And that gives us plenty of time to try and unpick essentially what happened right at the start of this race. Well, can we get a replay of all the action? Yes, we can. And well, here we go then, back to the race start. So in terms of that race start, for Phil McDougall, it was a lightning quick start there, and indeed Duncan Rise finding the box of neutrals. Carl Thompson did a little bit there of a jump start, and I think that's why he pulled aside then, knowing that he jumped the start and decided to pull aside because he knows he's got a black flag and therefore most likely a drive-through penalty to serve. But Phil McDougall in the end getting it nailed on and moving very quickly up the orders. They headed up the hill in towards turns 1, 2 and 3. Now McDougall and Stock pushed each other onwards. As you saw back there, Nick Clements had to try and follow through a bit further behind, but everyone was safely through the opening 3 quarters as quickly as that. But now the drama began as they headed in towards turn number 4. Now Andrew Pike was battling hard with Lewis Mason. This was one of the flashpoints of the battle as they head into the braking zone. We've got an alternate camera angle here. Can we see anything? Well, we did see a couple of cars run wide, and Mason lost it. Pike went round the outside using the grass there to avoid an incident, but Stuart White on the inside collected with Mason, and Pike came back on the road only to find the 2 of them glued together, and he became part of the menage a trois very quickly. So very unfortunate from Andrew Pike's perspective. And well, can we have a look at the race start from one of our other drivers' perspectives? Yes, we can. And we're going to look on board from Jamie Dory, who started in amongst the mid-pack here, started towards the bottom end of the top 10, and well, as he went away, exactly where did he go with regards to this race start? Well, a slow start from him, to be fair, and the 57 making its way up past, that was Pike, and then we did also see there Nick Clements' number making his way up through, as did Sam Smith in the 27, so the iRacing Esports driver making his way out the inside. Clements right behind, you can see, and Stuart Winus also on the inside of Dory, so Dory having a very poor start here, but I think playing it safe, knowing he was on the outside for turns 2 and 3. Now he picked up a lot of momentum. He's got to pick a driver to back here. And Will Smith on that outside. Winus on the inside. Dory taps the rear of Winus there to give him a little bit of a bump draft. Onto the brakes they went. You'll see Smith misses braking point. Goes deep, goes to the grass. Dory here will seal the field fanner. He decides to stay over to the side to avoid what happens with Pipe. Moraes rejoins, but Dory fans his way between the two. So when sends Dory on his way around? Now's the question. We can hear an engine here close beside him, where he was given a place up there to one of the Irish Esports machines. Comes down through the corner, and a sideways tap there from himself to Kieran Sharp. They went too wide into the corner, and that's what sent around. So that explains what happened between them. Can we get a replay of that instant from one of the exterior cameras? I think we might be able to. And well, without further ado, here is a replay of the Kieran Sharp Jamie Dory incident from an exterior camera. And this was them winding away through the gooseneck. Sharp coming across there, Dory on the inside, and in the end 2 tried to go into 1, it didn't work out, and Kieran Smart also getting caught up in that, but to a lesser extent. And that was your drama between them, and we also had a bit of chaos coming down in towards turn number 17, but on the way Carl Thompson ended up into the scene of the instant here, and it went wrong for him. Onto the brakes, went very late on the brakes, and the rear of the car stepping around on him, and then a little bit later it all went wrong in towards turn number 17. Now what happened here? Well, Mark Hughes was battling hard initially with, I believe at the time that was Nick Clemens. Hughes went onto the brakes here, and as he did, the rear of the car just let go on him. Clemens was pushed through. Adam Delmont tapped the back of Clemens. That's what sent Adam Delmont round. Doug Ryan in having to go to the brakes, but as Delmont turned it around, Stuart Winus came back up to speed, and they all just about survived it in the end. Goodness me. A lot of chaos down the opening lap. Indeed, a much more chaotic open lap compared to race number 1. But sometimes that's what happens, particularly when you do have these partial, if not full, reverse grids. And well, right now we come back to all of our drivers being behind the safety car. And well, the safety car will be in at the end of this lap. You see the lights have already gone off the safety car, so we will be back to green flag racing. Andrew Pike and Kieran Sharp, they have got their cars repaired, and now they are catching up to the field here. As whilst they do have fast repairs available for the first pit stop, they take what they need to do repair work. You still have to spend the time in the pit lane, and that does cost you time, but they have caught up, as has Lewis Mason. So all 15 of our starters will now be grouped back together, and we are only half a lap away from going green flag racing again here today. But we will still see all of the laps that we've got scheduled playing out, given the fact we are running ahead of schedule today here at the Cadwell Park circuits. We've got plenty of time before curfew, and Phil McDougall right now, he will be your race leader on the restart, and this will be a rolling start. It's the first time in the NXTGEN Racing Legends Cup in a long time, if I believe in history, we have seen a safety car, and well, for our first safety car, it has been one that's been very well managed. And here, with so many drivers coming into drama at the start, that is why it was called, in the fact there were a lot of damaged cars out there. And well, we can see Jamie Dory getting caught out there with a slow run of the field, but Phil McDougall will take us to the green shortly, and when he does, we'll be green flag racing again for another 7 laps around the Cadwell Park circuit. As he builds up the speed out the final corner, the safety car is headed across the line. He can legally go racing, and as they head across that line, we are back to green, ladies and gentlemen. Nick Clemens here immediately on the inside, up the hill in towards turn number 1 versus Nigel Stock. Can he get it done? The answer is yes, he can, and Nick Clemens picks up another place. Now he's only 1 away from potentially taking the overall lead and running away with it if he can. Ben Altrier, meanwhile, after a nightmare race number 1, well, right now the nightmare's been put to bed, and hopefully it's pleasant dreams at this point onwards. He's running happily in 4th. He's your leading pro driver here. He has got Jamie Dory and Adam Delmont not too far behind, but right now I think he'll take the positives here. But Phil McDougall battling with Nick Clemens. Clemens on the inside, and he'll go for it. McDougall tries to cut back, but doesn't quite get it. Further back, Mark Hughes, lock it up on the front right brake. Runs a little bit to the grass. Duncan Rice goes around again onto the grass there, coming out of turn number 4. He's not having a happy day at the office as it's 2 by 2. Coming through turn number 5 and in towards 6. And Ben Altrier goes around the outside of Phil McDougall, gets it stopped on the apex of turn 7. That is brave. And well, everything that's happening here, where's Nick Clemens? Nick Clemens has dropped all the way down the order. I'm not quite sure where he's disappeared to, but Nick Clemens, who was leading for a brief moment, Sonny has just disappeared. I can see him further in the rear of the picture there, but what's sent him there, I don't know. But right now, the battle for the prime lead is between Phil McDougall and Sam Smith and Nigel Stock over the back of it. Ben Altrier's trying to run away here, and it's a long queue of cars as they head into the slalom. Well, as they do, we ride aboard here with Jamie Dory, who's now got to try and pick his way through 1 by 1. And well, if he can do so, this could be a huge haul of points coming his way. But if he doesn't get it right, then it could be all undone as quickly as he's made that progress as they all come through there. But everyone's safely on through turn number 17. The corner's catching out so many trials in the open laps, given the cold tyres, and there's plenty of heat in the tyres now as they roar the way onto lap number 5, and will stock all over the back of Smith. You can see Smith there up the inside of McDougall, and right now they're all trying to pick the right driver to battle with as they head up the hill. Stock's trying to make it too wide again with McDougall in towards turn number 2, and well, over the crest they come. Jamie Dory here thinking, okay, who do I invest in? And when he decides to play right in the middle of the road here to make sure that Delmont behind can't get on through, and well, it's a well-placed opportunity there for Dory, because as Stock runs a little bit deep, that opens up the door on the inside, and he'll tuck in behind McDougall, and they'll move each other along here, heading towards turn number 4, but you see Delmont right behind, also Stuart Winus, but Delmont in the end backing off behind Dory. Onto the brakes they go, and Stock gets back ahead there. It is absolute pandemonium, but we love to see it, and Nick Clemens here, after his off it was to understand it on the previous lap, where he's now battling his way around the outside of Kieran Smart and gets it done there through turn 5 into 6. And well, Kieran, I think, being smart here with regards to the fact they both want to try and make progress and catch up to all the lead battle in the Prime class, albeit Sam Smith is now starting to run away as Pro-Am leader in second place overall, as Phil McDougall right now is trying to stop the rot here and prevent anybody else from getting on through. He's doing it legally, of course, but the thing is right now everyone's very eager to come on through, and this pack is absolutely tooth and nail fighting as Jamie Dory makes his way around the outside onto the mountain there versus Nigel Stock. That'll be a place picked up, but over the crest they go, and more to come here as right now it's 8 cars separated by a second as they head into the slaloms. Well, they're all going to have to go one astern here. Nobody wants to battle too wide. Stuart White is to the end of Nigel Stock. Come to blows. And goodness me, they almost made me choke on my own words there, because they made the way through. I thought both tries to end up in the barriers, but somehow magically they've been able to get it under control. Well done to them. They survived that, and well, that goes to show you can't go too wide through the slaloms, but when they try to, they find a way to magically survive it going wrong, and well done to both Winus and also there. Oh goodness me, Nigel Stock for getting it back under control, but my good lord, that could have been in tears, but it wasn't quite so. Well, right now as Winus goes back up the inside of Stock there into turn number 3, the fighting here is causing the top 6 to just gradually run off into the distance. But from them, looking further back, Kieran Sharp right now trying to pick off his first target of the day, and that is going to be Duncan Marai. And well, he'll try and do so heading up towards turn 4. At turn 4, this is Stock versus Winus. Winus up the inside there, and I think he'll get it done this time around. As I hold up a second, we've lost Sam Smith who's had a spin, and he's dropped all the way down from the lead of the Prime class. He's relinquished that lead, and now suddenly the battle for the lead of the Prime class is under a lot of pressure again, because Phil McDougall, the class leader, he's got the 2 pros of Dory and Delmont directly behind him, and then Nick Clemens is only a further 2 tenths behind, and Nick Clemens has gone from 0 to hero as quickly as he went from hero to 0 only a few laps ago here. So right now the fortunes continue to chop and change as Benel Trier 2.5 seconds up the road is just trying to run away with this, but Dory outside to inside here, and Jamie Dory finally moves up into second as Adam Delmont tries to get the move there over the mountain, can't quite do it. McDougall in the end tucks in behind Dory and says, okay, I'll hold this place and just let the one go. Nick Clemens, well, he'll be looking at this and thinking, okay, what have I got to do to get on through? Well, from them, as it's Nigel Stock there who's elbowed out on the outside coming in towards turn number 14, he releases 4th place in Prime class. Lewis Mason and Kieran Smart gets through with him, so Nigel Stock down into 6th for the class right now, but still sat in 10th place overall. And from them we look back to your Prime leader, and here is Phil McDougall. He's got Nick Clemens around his outside, and Clemens there trying to use the draft of Adam Delmont to get him on through. He does so there, running out of road almost, but Nick Clemens, ever the smart opportunist, making up the place and takes lead of the Prime class there. And I think Phil McDougall at this point would just be happy to finish on the Prime podium, everything all considered, as Stuart Winus is now closed up again very quickly. But what exactly happened earlier on for Nick Clemens to put him in a position where he's had to fight his way back up the order? Well, we'll get a quick replay of that when we can, but in fact we're going to stay glued to the live racing action for now, ladies and gentlemen, because it's absolutely on tenterhooks here as Dory goes a little bit deep, and Delmont now up into second, but as the sun comes out here it's smiling. Well, as you can see Dory right now running out of road, and McDougall almost taps him on the rear. It was almost a repeat of what happened in race number 1 between them, albeit 2 corners earlier, and Phil McDougall here getting caught out by Dory, just having a brief mistake there coming through turn number 5. No foul, no harm done, and rolling off of turn number 8 right now. These drivers are all so close to each other, but having to realise you make even the tiniest of mistakes here, and you've got to be ready for what is around you in terms of you see a driver in front of you make a mistake, you need to back off, as otherwise you're going to end up getting lulled into that instant and a small tap from back to front of car, and very quickly what you end up finding is these cars will go around. But right now the only thing they're doing is going around the circuit in absolutely brilliant fashion, and that's what we love to see. As we see Adam Doble go a little bit deep, Nick Clemens there thinks about the opportunity to get into second place overall, but then backs out of it as behind Phil McDougall under pressure from Stuart Wyness, as Wyness now all over the back of him as they power their way onto lap number 8. And will the Track Scotland driver here close, going up the inside immediately, and McDougall does not want to fight this. He is really sending a message here, which is he just wants to finish this race, and ideally he wants to be on that Pram podium. It would be his first Pram podium in a long time, and therefore I think that's what he wants, some big points on the board. Further back in the Prams, well, Mark Hughes right now over the back of Sam Smith as they fight over 6th place of the class, or should I say 5th place of the class, because Lewis Mason is right in front of them. They're enjoying a brilliant scrap here for the bottom end of the top 10. In fact, 10th place is in the hands of Lewis Mason right now. I think Mark Hughes has finally got himself up to temperature with the car, as has Sam Smith. But Smith here looking around the outside, and the Aztec Racing 991 going defensive there, and Hughes just watching at a distance and thinking, okay, I'll let them fight over it. But 2 away they come, and Mason goes deep. He takes Smith with him, and Mark Hughes in the end, I think he's got a little smile on his face over that one and saying, I knew something was going to happen, and I'll just take the place off of them. But Carl Thompson now comes into the scene of the incident as they all rejoin the circuit, and well, he picks up the place of a Mason with Doug Carride going around the outside of Mason there for a turn of 5, using the camera of the road. I think Lewis Mason's got some damage on that car because it's not going through the corners as much as you'd like it to, and we'll bring it back together here. But can Lewis Mason potentially pick up some places? We will wait and find out. As meanwhile, Adam Delmont's gone around, and that's on the mountain crest. What exactly has sent Adam Delmont around, I don't know, but what I can tell you is that right now he's going to drop down the order like a stone, and it's very late in this race now. He's only got 2 more laps to go after this one, and that is going to be absolutely punishing. Adam Delmont right now has just sacrificed a huge number of points, and here's the replay as to how the sacrifice was made. Now coming in towards turn number 11, he had right behind him Nick Clemens through the left, into the right, went deep, tried to get the power down, and as he went over the hill, the car's weight was unsettled and it transferred over the rear axle, and in the end Adam Delmont making an uncharacteristic error there, just pushing so hard, and in the end overdriving the car to make the mountain. And well, those mistakes so easy to make even from one of the finest, and Adam Delmont definitely up there as one of Next Gen's all-time Hall of Famers, in the fact he may not have that many championship titles in the Next Gen Racing community, but we like to refer to him as the champion without a title, because he's definitely scored enough points over his career to be considered a champion, and he has battled with the champions, the very best out there, season after season, and absolutely held them honest every step of the way. But Stuart Wyness makes his way on past Jamie Dory. Well, right now Wyness 1.7 seconds off of Pram leader Nick Clemens. I think he's enjoying the fight for third here and some good overall points, and will Phil McDougall still holding on to the third place in the Pram class. You can see him back here. He has got in front of him Andrew Pike. Pike has recently found his way through, and I don't think he'll be too upset about that. I think he'll just want to get to the finish as best as he possibly can. But meanwhile, Adam Delmont's had another off, and this is at turn number 7, and Delmont gradually rejoined. And well, right now this race is going from good to bad to disastrous like that for the number 37 drivers. Mark Hughes, meanwhile, well, he's still over the back of Sam Smith for 5th place in Prime class. Can he pick up his first top 5 in class before the end of this race? We will see, but he runs a little bit sideways there coming through turn number 12. Got to be careful with those slides. We've seen what happens when you get the slide wrong. It had Adam Delmont only moments ago, but Carl Thompson versus Duncan Rise is just behind them, and the number 12 holding off the 33 for the time being as Mark Hughes goes one way, gets it back together, but Carl Thompson has to back off, and Duncan Rise in the end capitalised on the opportunity, but Thompson tries to hold around the outside at turn number 18, only to find within off camber the car will take a trip to the grass if you carry too much speed. But right now Mark Hughes avoiding a scare, but he will lose the tyre of Sam Smith and relegates himself down to a fight for 6th in Prime class to the end of this race, presuming nothing happens to the drivers in front. But it's turn 2 they come, and Mark Hughes right now on course for his best result if he's able to hold on to this. He's doing everything he can, and will a little bit of wobble there coming through turn number 3, collects the car together right now. I think the tyres on his car are absolutely blazing red hot after that big slide coming out of turn number 17, and here comes Thompson looking around the outside of Mariah. Hughes can get them to fight each other, but Thompson's going to look around the outside of Hughes, in towards the right hand. Here it's going to be 3 wide, contact there, Mariah at the inside, and Hughes goes the other way, the car snaps away for him, and well, it was 3 wide at the apex, but in the end it didn't work out, and Carl Thompson at this point picks up all the pieces, and with it hopefully the points he'll be thinking. But as he rolls on through there, Mark Hughes will be fuming at that one, in the fact that you'll you'll feel as though that he was hard done by that one, but that'll be for the stewards to decide. But meanwhile, as he makes his way around, Carl Thompson will be smiling, and well, at the very front of the field, Ben Altrier right now, all he's got to do is hold on to 2 more corners, and with it he'll hold on to his first win of the season here. As he comes through turn 17 in towards 18, Nick Clemens is getting closer and closer, but there's not enough time in the day. It's a drag race to the line, but for Ben Altrier, after a dismal race 1, it's victory in race number 2 ahead of prime winner Nick Clemens, and then it will be in third place overall to Stuart Wyness ahead of Andrew Pike in fourth. Kieran Sharp will round off the pro podium with a 2-3 for the Sim Racing Collective. Phil McDougall finishes third place of the Pram podium. Well done to Phil. What a drive from him. Holding off Jamie Doreen and Kieran Smart. There'll be Sam Smith in 9th, and Cole Thompson rounds off your top 10 there with his best performance so far this season after 2 races. Adam Delmont was 11th. Lewis Mason was 12th, and then we will have Nigel Stock ahead of Duncan Rye and Mark Hughes completing your finishers. 15 starters, 15 finishers, an absolute chaos every step of the way there, as I think Nick Clemens and none other than Andrew Pike venting a little bit of steam there, but they're good friends off the circuit, so I think they're doing that for a little bit of a laugh. But what a race, ladies and gentlemen, and Ben Altrier taking that win. I think he's already out the car in the pit lane. I think he's already jumping up and down on top of the car. He'll be absolutely ecstatic about that one. And well, the battles were absolutely intense, no question about it. But as Jamie Dory winds his way around there for Phil McDougall as well, 3rd place in Pro-Am. I mean, he has worked so hard to find a way to get himself into that 3rd place finish, and he pulled it off in the end. What a drive from him, no doubt about it. Kept his head down, kept his cool, and got everything done there. And in the end, he sacrificed overall places to both Andrew Pike and Kieran Sharp. He even let 2nd and 1st go to Clemens and Wyness. He just wanted to be on the podium, and for Phil McDougall, it means so much to him there for CXR Project Black, no doubt about it. But as they all make the way towards the pit lane, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, ladies and gentlemen. And well, here they are, and what a race it was. And as we can see, all the drivers winding their way on down. Well, Ben Altrier, your winner in the end for Full Tilt V Motorsport, avoided all the drama and kept his cool when the temperatures were rising and Nick Clemens was close, but he didn't let go to that win, and it will be such a happy moment for him. 2nd place overall, Nick Clemens could not quite make it another overall win, but for the Pro-Am driver, he picks up the Pro-Am victory there for iRacing Esports by 3 seconds over Stuart Wyness for Track Scotland, who makes it another overall podium to his campaign in the number 61. And then we did have Andrew Pike in full for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, ahead of his teammate Kieran Sharp. With their up and down fortunes this race, they were looking for a much more stable race number 3 to wrap up proceedings today. It was Kieran Sharp, then followed up by Phil McDougall in 6th, 3rd place of the Pro-Am class for the CXR Project Black team, ahead of Jamie Dory, with the NXTGEN Racing driver fending off the charge of Kieran Smart for Track Scotland. And it was Sam Smith for iRacing Esports and the privateer Carl Thompson, who round off your top 10. Adam Delmont, 11th for NXTGEN Green, ahead of Lewis Mason for Aztec Racing. And it was Nigel Stott for Crest Autosport, who managed to outpace Duncan Rye to the line, with the Goldwyn Motorsports driver finishing 14th, just ahead of Mark Hughes, the privateer, who was on course potentially for his first top 10 overall of the season. But that free wide between himself and Carl Thompson and Duncan Rye end up in disaster for both him and Rye, and will in the end having to settle for 15th. But knowing, of course, that he'll be starting from towards the front of the field for the final race of the day, and we've got one more race to come. And I've just had word in my ear as well, ladies and gentlemen. We will see Alan McCain back for race number 3. They've got the car sorted out, but he'll be starting from the back of the field for the final race of the day. But one more race is to come, and it is the 15-lap feature race, and that'll be getting underway in approximately 10 minutes time. Well, at least we'll be back for it in 10 minutes time, I should say, but in about 15 minutes time we will be going green flag racing for one final time here at Cadwell Park. And well, after 2 brilliant races to set us off, I'm sure we're going to have an absolutely fantastic finale here to wrap up round number 5. We will be back in approximately 5-6 minutes time for the build up to race number 3. We will see you there very shortly. Speaking of Mikey Doble Racing, if you'd like to support Mikey as he pushes it to the limit out on track, you can do so by following the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page as seen on screen. Additionally, if you want to represent the 88 Army at a BTCC weekend, Mikey Doble Racing has some fantastic merchandise available just for you, as may be found either via the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page or alternatively in the Doble Motorcycles store at dobledirect.co.uk. Don't miss out on being a part of the 88 Army today. And we are back one more time this evening, ladies and gentlemen, for race 3 of 3 here in round number 5 of season 3 of the NXTGEN Racing Legends Cup. And how about that for race number 2? A completely chaotic open half of the race. The safety car came out, the field was inverted once, it was inverted twice, but for all the chaos and carnage, one driver stood tall amongst them all, and it was Ben Altrier who in the end brought on home an absolutely brilliant drive to victory, albeit he had some very close pressure from this man right at the close, Nick Clibbins, who took another Pro-Am victory this season and indeed has now made it 2 out of 2 for the races so far. But can he make it 3 out of 3? Because, of course, in race number 1, he did have Kieran Smart right behind him in a close contest. But in race number 2, he was a bit of a step clear in the end, with all the Pro-Am fields stopping and stumbling over each other. And Stuart Winus was your runner-up in the Pro-Am class in that race. Well, we'll have to see. We've got 2.5 minutes to go before we do head to our final grid, and that'll be for race number 3. But as we do get set on that journey, I think it's only appropriate to potentially get a word from Ben Altrier as he gets himself set. He's not in the pit lane at the moment. I think we will be able to get a patch through to him from the pit lane. And, well, let's grab a quick word. So we try to catch a quick word from Ben. Ben, have you got time for a quick chat? Oh, I think he might be away, ladies and gentlemen. So I think we might leave him to it unless he comes back very shortly. But I don't think so. So I think we will leave Ben to his own devices for now, and instead what we'll do, we'll let him focus on getting ready for the final race of the day. Hopefully he is able to make it to the grid there, because I am noticing he's not currently listed or registered to make his way in. Hopefully not something's gone wrong then. We haven't aided it in going wrong, but we will see. But it looks like we're not getting a word from Ben Altrier, our race 2 winner, unfortunately. And well, I think he might be out of the car and right now just take it nice and easy. But speaking of one driver who didn't get a chance to take it nice and easy, well, we did have, Nigel Stock have a lot of pressure on him throughout race number 2 and ended up fighting forwards as much as he did defending backwards. But that's always the way, of course. In the NXTGEN Racing Legends Cup, the one thing that's certain is you will have plenty of drivers around you who absolutely will be giving it their all. But who will be giving it their all one more time? And who will be coming away victorious? Well, we're only a minute away from heading to the grid to find out that story for the third time today. But remember, 15 laps, it's a longer race by the best part of 50% of the race distance. And that always offers an opportunity to create some more brilliant battles out there. But who will be the one? So remember, we completely flip the order. It will be a full reverse grid, much like what we saw in race number 2, given the fact we've only got 15 drivers here, although we do have a 16th driver in the form of Alan McCain. However, the challenge will be for Alan McCain is he will start from the very back of the field, as he did not finish race number 2, as we're to understand it, and he won't get the benefit of being immediately promoted all the way to the front. But we might only have 15 drivers here, with Altrier not making it into the practice session. We will see, ladies and gentlemen, but it looks like at least we will be going race with 15 cars as the checkered flag comes out in practice. It's time to head to the grid for the final time tonight. So as our drivers now leave the circuit, only to make their way back onto it shortly, well, we're going to see that grid in its full splendour here as they line up for our final race. It's race 3 of 3, and it is Mark Hughes who takes reverse grid pole position. Alongside the privateer, it'll be Duncan Ryan for Goldwing Motorsports, with then Nigel Stark for Crest Autosport and Aztec Racing's Lewis Mason making it onto the second row. On row 3, you'll find your first pro of Adam Delmont for NXTGEN Green, ahead of Carl Thompson, who starts 6th there, rewarded well for his performance in race number 2. And then Sam Smith for iRacing Esports and Track Scotland's Kieran Smart line up together on full throw of the grid, ahead of Jamie Dory for NXTGEN Racing and Phil McDougall for CXR Project Black. Then, rounding off your rows, you'll see on row number 6, it'll be the Sim Racing Collective Esports pair of Kieran Sharp and Andrew Pike, with Stuart Winus starting 13th for Track Scotland, ahead of iRacing Esports' Nick Clibbins. And last but not least, it will be Alan McCain for iRacing Esports, who starts at the very back of the grid. And of course, not making it to the grid and not competing in race number 2, he will not be eligible for that full reverse grid and have a little bit more of a challenge lying ahead of him. But with the grid all mostly set, we are about to go racing. Alan McCain, I suspect, is starting from the pit lane because of the work that's going on in the car. But the lights are going on. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And it's lights out. Away we go here for our final race of the day. In fact, we had an extra lap added on. It will be 16 laps rather than 15. But who are we to complain here as our drivers get underway? And Alan McCain currently in the pit lane. Can they get the car started? We will see. Right the hill they go, and Mark Hughes there defending well versus Nigel Stock. It's too wide into turn 2. Stock having to go up into the apex curve there. Mark Hughes getting his elbows out, and as they roar the way around, the blimp camera there shows you the full extent of the field as they've all made their way safely through the opening couple of quarters. But now it's going to get dicey here as Hughes has got Adam Delmont looking to his inside, and the Pram leader here. Well, can he keep the leading pro behind? Yes, he can. He crowds Delmont there to the inside. Make sure that Delmont can't look for the move. Hughes now onto the brakes, and Nigel Stock's going to look around the outside, but Stock's going to miss the corner entirely and turn it into a rallycross line as he goes to rejoin, but sensitively does so and drops down the order as the whole field makes his way to the inside, and Stock's back out to the outside there. Andrew Pike almost goes with him. I think he may have been escorted there. I think there must have been some contact between the two of them, but Mark Hughes right now, well, I don't know what kind of pep talk he's had between races 2 and 3, but this is an all-new Mark Hughes, albeit I say that he runs deep immediately there. The commentator's curse applied, but Adam Delmont immediately swings one way, then the other. Mark Hughes right now, he is not giving in here. He's going to fight for it, even if it only lasts a lap, and good on him, I say, as they make the way from 11 into 12, but Delmont trying to go around the outside. The two elbow each other off the road, and it's all pandemonium behind. As onto his roof goes Nick Clements. He rolls one way down to the other side. Oh my good lord! And well, right now Nick Clements' race is towed to the pit. We won't be making it 3 out of 3 here, as now Mark Hughes been elbowed out, and Lewis Mason comes through the side of him there into the slalom, and both of them pinned together here. And well, suddenly this race that was looking so fighty and feisty for Mark Hughes has suddenly gone all the way backwards. And well, after one lap, an absolutely crazy lap of race, and I won't be surprised if a safety car comes out at this point. It's Adam Delmont that leads ahead of Duncan Rye, followed by Jamie Dory in third, or is it because Kieran Sharp's up his inside? And well, Kieran Sharp here looking for the move. Up he goes, and as they come through turn 1 into 2, Kieran Sharp moves into 3rd place. So Dory falls to 4th. Stuart White, the 2nd place man in the Prime class, sits in 5th ahead of Philbert Dogle in 6th. Carl Thompson is 7th ahead of Andrew Pyatt, followed by Kieran Smart, and then we do have Lewis Mason making his way up past Nigel Stock and also Sam Smith. They seem to have come to blows there. Smith, where is Nigel Stock? Well, there he is. They've definitely come to blows between the two of each other. So Mark Hughes is back up to 11th. Sam Smith down to 12th. Stock to 13th. And Nick Clemens is in the pit lane having the car repaired after it's been towed. He's down in 14th place. Alan McCain's also in the pit lane. Work's been done on the car, but I think McCain's leaving the pits now, but he leaves the pits a lap down effectively, so now he's got all the work to do from a lap down. But if a safety car comes out, you never know, this could work out to his advantage. As a run wide there for Stuart Whiteys, that is going to give Jamie Dory an opportunity to go up his inside, and Whiteys there just carrying a bit too much speed coming down for turn number 7, and Sharp and Dory clearing him now as they head in towards turn number 11. But what a chaotic opening lap there. We've got a lot to pull apart with regards to a replay of what happened, and thankfully we've got some replays readily available. And here we go, ladies and gents, with this opening lap. Well, definitely a absolutely crazy one, but here we saw coming down in towards turn number 3, Mark Hughes going defensive, and in the end Nigel Stock just making his way deep. I think he turned in and tapped with the rear left wheel there of Mark Hughes, but then suddenly tapping on the rear. Well, that was Andrew Pike who came careening into the scene in the instant, and Nigel Stock being pushed forward. And we'll take a look at that from Andrew Pike's perspective. Here was the on-boarder Pike as he made his way up the hill. And remember, of course, that Pike having to do a lot of work from further down the order, but into the braking zone he went, and as he did so, well, a small tap there for the 105 of Philbert Dogle, but he got away with that. And then here, I think, with Stock coming across, he had nowhere to go, and then hit Stock at the back and sent him straight on. Well, then subsequently, we had a big moment as well for Sam Smith. Well, he ran wide there, but a bit later on, we did have the big moment. We had Philbert Dogle have a bit of a run wide. So this was coming down in towards the gooseneck here. And I think it all got a little bit close between our drivers as they rolled from right into left. And well, Philbert Dogle just carrying a bit too much speed. But then the question was, what exactly happened to Nick Clemens? Well, Clemens was just behind McDougall at this point. And well, it was too wide at the exit between Winus and McDougall. We're going to stay with this replay all the way through. Of course, we saw what happened between Hughes and Delmont where they got very feisty. But now this was McDougall versus Clemens in towards turn 11. On the inside there, and in the seed of all the madness, well, there was already an instant, and in the end, the car being spun around and all the momentum carrying it onto its roof. So we take a look back at what happened to Kieran Smart in that scenario, and I think it was the instant between Kieran Smart and perhaps there Kieran Sharp, the two Kierans at it. Well, no, Kieran Smart lost it, and in front, the number 27 went around with Sam Smith, and in the end, Clemens just getting caught up on the rear right of Smart's car, and that's what sent him onto the roof there. So really, Nick Clemens a victim of circumstance, as you could say, was Kieran Smart, and it was Sam Smith's spin that set off the domino effect there. We'll come back to your live racing, and towards the end of lap number 3, we've got plenty more laps laps to come, ladies and gentlemen, but already Adam Delmont running away here and trying to build a bit of a championship lead as they head up the rise again. And Kieran Sharp now getting ahead to Duncan Rise. They use the slipstream to his advantage. And on paper, at least, if we have to believe the pace in race 1 and qualifying, well, Kieran Sharp, in theory, should be able to close Adam Delmont down quite quickly. But Stuart White is going sideways. Does he hold it? No, he doesn't, or does he? Yes, he just about does. Keeps it pointing in the right direction, but it has to take to the grass. But Stuart White is in the end having a bit of a nightmare moment, as now Jamie Dory gives up the place there, and we can see Dory going quite slowly as he makes his way along. But Stuart White is still losing places to Andrew Pike, also to Phil McDougall. But McDougall now up into second place again in the Prime class here, and I suspect this time he'll do a little bit more fighting, because you can see the widest with Kieran Smart right behind him, and all the Prime battles here absolutely rising to a crescendo as Kieran Smart, after all the drama of the open lap, now hoping for a more settled down few laps where he can just get his bit between the teeth here and go fighting, particularly with Nick Clemens, the effective portion of half a lap down at this point. Nick Clemens just making his way across the timeline now, so therefore this is a prime opportunity for the Track Scotland pair to get some big points to the man who's taken 2 class victories so far today. But as White goes to the inside, they get some past McDougall in towards turn number 11. Well, Smart behind, through left, into the right, and the sparks fly there, but all 3 of them survive the run over the mountain this time. They're coming in towards, the slalom here, and well, right now McDougall very eager to try and make a counter-attack, but from that far back it's not going to quite work out as they wind their way through 17, and with Jamie Dory now on the back of this. Unfortunately, we do have the retirement of Mark Hughes after the open lap incident, and I think the car not able to be repaired there after the big shunt it went through coming over the slalom sequence, and I can understand if Mark Hughes is very frustrated by that, because he was going fighting quite well, only for it to go wrong as he ended up battling side by side with Adam Delmont, and then Lewis Mason subsequently really topping it off. But I can imagine all 3 of them will have a chat about their separate incidents after the race. I'm sure they'll debrief and cool things down when the time is right. But Winus right now trying to pull away from Smart, his teammate, who is keeping Phil McDougall and Jamie Dory behind, albeit for how long, because here comes Dory all over the back of the CXR Project Black Mountain Dew sponsored machine. Up the hill they come then, in towards turn number 4. And Dory not quite able to find a move this time, instead having to wait, but McDougall will go deep. The opportunity will arise there, and will Jamie Dory in the end just having to essentially say open sesame, and so it goes there. A little bit of magic, or alternatively his rival just making a mistake, depending on which interpretation you prefer. But from an interpretation of what is a battle between 2 drivers to another interpretation, well, there's a clear one there, and Sam Smith up the inside of Nigel Stock, and this time does get it stopped into turn 4 and moves up into 7th place in the Prime class there. Nigel Stock not fighting that too hard, and I think cognizant of the fact these 2 need to work together to catch up to Lewis Mason, Carl Thompson and company, who are 9 seconds up the road, and well, they could disappear off into the distance if these 2 fight for too much longer. But from the absence of fighting between Smith and Stock at this time, we come back to the front of the field. And well, the point about how long would it take Kieran Sharp to close up to Adam Delmont? Well, there you go. Previous lap, Kieran Sharp at 35.51, Delmont at 36.23. This time as they come across the timeline, what's it going to be? For Adam Delmont, it is going to be a 36.12, Kieran Sharp a 35.42. So therefore another 7 attempts stripped out of Adam Delmont's lead, and now it's going to be Kieran Sharp who's looking to be the aggressor. However, we've also had a bit of chaos further back, because Kieran Smart and Doug Rye seem to have come to slight blows. More so Doug Rye, who at the time was leading in the Prime class. What exactly happened to him, we'll find out shortly, because here comes Kieran Sharp looking to the inside of Delmont in towards turn 4, but Delmont covers him off here, so now Sharp's going to look round the outside, and the TSRC 23, the 37 there just parks on apex, very well stopped there, and now through with right-hander at turn number 5 they go, winding the wound around, and we can see Delmont there using all the road whip, but under a lot of mental pressure here, and Kieran Sharp really right now just trying to go down error, but down the hill they come in towards turn 8, and Sharp decides to back off entirely there. 9, the 2 does not go to 1, but Delmont locks up the front brake, well, the front left lock it up, but does he still hold on? He does, but Kieran Sharp gets closer and closer here. Sharp gives him a little bit of a tap on the rear, that'll be to give him a bit of a speed boost, but also to mentally unsettle him there and make Delmont wonder what Sharp's planning to do next. But out of turn 12 they come, and in towards the slalom, and with this there's going to be no way through for Sharp at the moment. He'll just have to wait. He's going to use wisdom here to his advantage, and I'm sure he will as they wind and weave their way through the corners, and now coming down through turn number 17, and Adam Delmont here just holding nice and tight on the apexes, as we can see Kieran Sharp behind, but not close enough to be able to think about a move there, but he's now more than close enough to consider a move here into turn number 1, and he's going to go for it. Delmont puts it in the middle of the road, but in the end Sharp will tuck to the inside here as they go into the uphill left-hander, and well, surely Sharp's got to be ahead here at the apex. Yes, he is. Can Delmont come back on the braking into turn 2? The answer is no, but for Adam Delmont, the aim of the game now has surely got to be to stay as close as possible here and try and come back in the tow. If he loses the slipstream to Kieran Sharp, or he lets Sharp get too far away, I think it's going to be Kieran Sharp who's able to run away with this. We're still half the race to go, but Delmont is watching. He's waited within a tenth here as they head towards the break-ins over turn number 4. Sharp goes defensive. We saw this in race number 1 from Kieran Sharp, where in the opening stages of the race, he let drives get within a tenth of him coming into these corners, but he never relinquished the inside line, and as a result was able to go defensive and hold on. And well, Adam Delmont right now knows that he's on a bit of a double-edged sword situation here. The closer he gets, the more he can stay with Sharp. However, the closer he gets as well, the more difficult it is to see the apexes and negotiate the dirty air. But he's got to do this if he wants to keep Kieran Sharp within his grip, because otherwise we reckon Kieran Sharp will be able to run away with the lead this race, and Adam Delmont won't want that, because there could be some big points to the line here to really make up for what's been 2 difficult races. And well, this race could really be a great race to wrap up the day at Cadwell Park in changeable conditions in terms of who he battles out there. Well, right now, one thing you want certain is the fact that the points are moving forward, not backwards, as his championship campaign goes on. But coming down in towards turn number 17, well, there you can see Sharp and Delmont still only half a second apart as they make their way through the more technical complex. And can Delmont get back within 2 tenths here as they head towards turn 1? I think he may not be able to, because the gap's now open to 6 tenths. He will gain here come the end of the start for this straight, but the gap's now up to half a second. It may be going the way of Sharp, because that lap, Sharp, a new fastest lap, a 35.4, but meanwhile Stuart Widest, an even faster lap, a 35.177. This track's getting faster, but also, to give credit where it's due, Widest there, your pram leader, having the time, Andrew Pike, all the way around the lap, and we've been able to absolutely exploit it there. So as fast as our pole lap practically in the qualifying session much earlier today, and we're looking good. It is Stuart Widest right now for potentially taking home the prime win. Looking further back, Carl Thompson's running 4th place in prime class, and after a great result in race number 2, well, right now he's all over the back of Kieran Smart for 3rd place in the class. Can he bring home a podium on his debut? We'll have to see here, but Thompson is definitely going at this as much as he possibly can, and we can see there Smart holding his line on the outside. I think having the confidence that Thompson's not going to look for the move from that far back into turn number 4, and well, big slide there from Smart, trying to carry as much speed as possible to break open the gap, and well, opens it up to 6 tenths there for a brief moment, but you can see Thompson still staying with him as they head in towards turns 6 and 7. Went through right into left, and as they emerge from the corners, we need to take a look back at what happened earlier for Duncan Morais, who was leading in the prime class. This was back in lap number 5. Now, already too wide, they're going into the slams, battling with Kieran Smart, and well, in the end, they both made it on through. Credit where it's due to them, but Morais just the outside, and in the end loses the rear, taps the rear of Kieran Smart in turn, and well, Phil McDougall managed to siphon his way between the two of them, not without a little bit of a contact, but great respectful racing between the two drives, to be fair to them. And well, we take a look back at earlier on. Can we get on board of that? Because at the time, Duncan Rye was running quite well. In fact, he was leading in the class, and he made a mistake. This is how it all started then, because he was leading, lost it coming out of turn 4 into 5. So Duncan Rye's making that error, and that dropped him down to 2nd place. But as he rejoined there, well, he rejoined, letting on through Andrew Pine, and this is what brought him then into the company of the rest of the prime field. Widest up the inside, and no, it was Widest up the inside. Yes, it was correct the first time, and then it was none other than Kieran Smart who got caught up behind him. But as we look on board here in that replay to Kieran Smart, well, he was nice and close. Well, I think Morais is going to have a bit of an error here coming into the mount. He goes a bit deep out of 11, bumps the apex curve at 12, so they went too wide here into the slum. Morais was never going to back out, and he was smart at this point. And well, they went too wide all the way through, cutting these corners, absolutely fine, but great racing between them. And at this point, I think Kieran would have thought to himself, right, I've got him done. Only for Morais to try and go for the cutback and go round. A tap to the rear of the car for Smart, sent him as round as well, and all that battling was for naught between them. But great racing all the way up to that point, and indeed just goes to show you can go too wide through the slalom to survive it, but you've got to really respect each other's space. But coming back to your live pictures, and as we do, we're coming up to said slaloms on lap number 9. It's Andrew Pike versus Stuart Widest, and it's your 3rd place pro and overall driver versus your pro-am leader. And one is still staying right within the wheel tracks here as the two make the way onwards towards turn number 18, and we're big slide there from Whitus. Can he hold it together? Yes, he can, but that slide is not something you want to keep doing because that will definitely overheat the outside tyres, but it also does as well as put you at risk of a spin. Well, Whitus there doesn't want to spin to win. He wants to keep it pointed in the straight line to win, which is understandable and indeed quite obvious, but still, the challenge really has been here at this circuit is finding the grip out there. Well, right now finding places. Kieran Smart as he moves ahead of Phil McDougall heads a second in the Pro-Am class, and now McDougall drops back to third in the class again. But he does have a 2.7 second advantage over this man, Cole Thompson, who is getting faster and faster. And well, he's actually matching McDougall for pace now. And keep in mind that Thompson, when he started today, this is his debut round in practice and qualifying, he was very far off the pace of the mid-pack of the Pro-Ams, and now he's actually found the pace out there by just simply putting in the laps. And that's what we said earlier on, the fact when it's not going right in race number 1, keep putting the laps in because you can unlock some time whilst you're out there. And we can definitely see that Thompson right now is unlocking the pace, and well, if he can get a bit closer, he could be fighting for third place in the Pro-Am class on his debut, and that would be an achievement. And well, if he could pull it off as well, I think he'll be grinning all the way to our next round at Thruxton in only a week's time. However, we'll have to wait and see whether he heads to Hampshire in a happy state or an even happier state than that, because I think he'll be happy with his improvement state either way. But for now, Kieran Smart pulling Phil McDougall along, and they've still got the best part of half this race or so to go. And well, the battles are calming down for a brief moment at least, but this could be the proverbial calm before the storm as we look back to your race leader. And we can definitely see there now Kieran Sharp open up a monumentous gap, another second and a half almost, with which he's opened it up to Adam Delmont. And Delmont lapping in the high 36s here. Andrew Pike, a 35.72 on that previous lap. Now, he may have been assisted a little bit. In fact, he may not have been assisted that much by the bump draft off of Winus, to be fair. Winus has fallen back. But the point is that right now, Andrew Pike is flying out there. If he can keep up this pace, I wouldn't be surprised if the Seracer Collective are targeted a 1-2 in this final race of the day, and Pike might be in a position within the next 4 laps to potentially go for it, which would mean he'd be going for the second place spot on the final lap of this race. So therefore, he's just got to keep his head down and see what he can deliver. But for a driver keeping his head down right now, we do say hello there to Alan McCain as he spins coming out to turn number 4. And we're a bit of an awkward time to say hello, but better late than never. And Alan McCain, who couldn't make it to the grid for races 1 or 2, he's out there for race number 3. 2 laps down, but he's staying out of trouble and just enjoying himself out there. And what a wonderful way to be. Getting to grips with the Legends Mobile and getting a bit more experience in it, as he will relinquish his position on circuit to a number of cars that make the way around, albeit they are on the lead lap compared to 2 laps down. And when he crawls along there as he lets Mr. Ninth Place banner Sam Smith, his teammate at iRacing Esports, go around the outside there on the tarmac. Alan McCain surely will be back onto circuit in due course, and was he rejoins to be going racing once again. But from then we look back to Nick Clemens here, who right now has also had a bit of a dismal day of this race after ending up on his roof on the opening lap coming into the mountain. Well, that was due to a little bit of a tap that sent him on round and caused the momentum of his Legends Coupe to absolutely go into the sky. And well, Nick Clemens right now just trying to recover and see whether he can get some better points in the Pro-Am class to follow up from his 2 wins earlier on today. But from him, Jamie Dory's had a bit of a spin only moments ago, we believe coming over the mountain or through the slalom sequence, and in fact so much so he's released Phil McDougall into 6th place, and we can see Cole Thompson is now closing, albeit on the last couple of laps we have now started to see that Phil McDougall has broken away a little bit from Cole Thompson, so therefore McDougall now finding his pace and Thompson's pace meanwhile going the other way. But then again, it could ebb and flow, and both drivers might be struggling a little bit as we go deeper, because we now are into unknown territory with regards to tyre life management here, given the fact they've only had 2 10-lap races so far. They are now on a 12th lap, so the tyres will be worn more than they were previously, albeit we do have cooler track temperatures to assist with that. But the point being here, they need to understand how that tyre evolves, and some of these drivers may not have been able to practice that distance in the build-up to today as Cole Thompson runs a bit deep. However, he straight lines his way back on, and Cole Thompson there, well, he doesn't want to keep making those mistakes, because otherwise he might be putting 4th place of the Pro-Am class at risk, and that would be some big points from here in race number 3. But we will see as we also take a look back at what happened to Jamie Dory only moments ago. And he was running at the time in 5th place, heads into the slalom, and will coming over the crest of turn number 15, takes too much apex cover, unsettles the car, and rolls it around, but he gets it stopped in time, and will Kieran Smart there backing off the throttle as well to make sure he didn't end up careening into the number 13 as it was stricken in at the middle of the road. But we come back to iRacing, and as we do, there's still more to come. As Andrew Pike under pressure from Winus here, we thought he might have been able to break away, but not quite so. And now Winus back in the fight for third place overall as they go on to lap number 13. 4 to go here, and while the top 2 seem settled for now, with Sharp and Delmont separated by 5 seconds, and it's a further 4.5, almost to 5 seconds, where you get to Andrew Pike, who we thought might have been chasing down Adam Delmont, but if anything, it's actually gone the other way. He's now been chased down by Stuart Winus. Would love an opportunity to try and pick up the place off of him, but he's going to stay there as Winus right now as they head in towards turn number 4. Now, as the sun sets here in northern England, visibility will be decreasing to a degree, as we do still have Lewis Mason in the pit lane. I believe the car undergoing extensive repair work at the moment. It may not be out there again for Aztec Racing come the checkered flag, we will see. But Winus here so close that right now he could reach out and touch the rear bumper of the number 57, but he won't be doing that. He'll be keeping 2 hands on the wheel instead and focusing on trying to get as close as he can in order to make a move. But over the crest and down they've come, and now coming in towards turn number 11. Well, Winus there just backing off slightly, gives himself plenty of visibility to the apexes, because those raised curves have definitely proven to be undoing a many a driver. And Winus having to battle with the steering wheel as he comes out 12 and in towards the slalom of 13, 14, 15 and 16. And well, they're both trying to cut as much of the curbs as they can. And Winus goes for the cutback run here through the hairpin. But the problem, of course, he has with regards to that run is he has to take a very high apex curb. And that apex curb, it doesn't settle the car quite noticeably. But carrying on, new fastest lap of the race, a 35.124 goes the way of Kieran Sharp, breaking the personal best lap of Stuart Winus, which was the 1 minute 35.184. So therefore, Sharp just finding a little bit more time by the best part of 600ths of a second out there, and Kieran Sharp having to do that with no slipstream whatsoever. And that goes to show you he's finally found that qualifying pace from earlier once again, and Sharp really the man to beat when he is in clear air at the very front of the field. But from them, we look to Nick Clibbins, who's still chasing after Duncan Rye. And Will Clibbins here trying to pick up 7th place in the Pro-Am class. At this rate or not, he will be there on the final lap. Sam Smith, meanwhile, has had a spin coming out the final corner, albeit that's just cost him time to Jamie Dory. It hasn't cost him any positions. He still holds on to 9th overall and 5th place in the Pro-Am class, because behind him there is 2 laps down Alan McCain, and then you do have a further 3 seconds off of the back of McCain. There's Nigel Stock, who is 5.5 seconds off the back of Sam Smith, and Stock here just trying to get some recovery points here out of a race that definitely has not gone his way. And indeed, in the Pro-Am class here, excluding Track Scotland's Winus and Smart and McDougall as well, you could say that for the majority of the Pro-Am class, things have not gone their way in this final race, and some big names have fallen. The one most importantly or pertinently being Nick Clibbins, who right now is all over the back of Duncan Rye. Rye having a bit of a poor run there coming over turns 1 and 2, and well, from 3 to 4, Nick Clibbins there will be making his way ahead and moving into 7th place of the Pro-Am class. I think Mariah there in a damaged Goldwing Motorsports car, not really close enough at this point or in a competitive enough state to be able to try and come back at Clibbins under braking. So Clibbins moves up to 11th, and with that, some more points in the bag for him if he can bring it on home. But we will wait and see as your leaders head on to their penultimate lap, and Kieran Sharp still leading the way quite dominantly here with a 5.5 second gap over Adam Delmont. Last lap, however, he did back off, and Adam Delmont managed to close up by half a second. But then again, you never know at this point. Sharp might just be siding now and to back off to a degree, as just behind Delmont, here comes Andrew Pike and Stuart Winus, and Winus still playing the game of just being honest behind him and not putting him under too much pressure and trying to work with his rival as Jamie Dory makes his way sweeping around the outside there of Carl Thompson up into 7th place. So our top 4 right now, they seem to have settled down, and Jamie Dory picking up the pieces he dropped earlier on. Carl Thompson won't lose the place in Pro-Am as a result of that, given the pros just passed him. Indeed, he stays in 4th place in Pro-Am class, does Carl Thompson, as he sits behind the 4th place pro driver. There's a bit of poetry for you as Thompson looks the inside here. Well, he's going to go for it and then decides, actually, I can't quite do it. I haven't got the overspeed, and also braking on the inside's not going to quite work out. So then he backs out instead. But I think for Carl Thompson, it's definitely been a great learning experience today, and one he'll take a lot of positives from, as we do see Andrew Pike and Stuart Winus still together as we ride aboard the nose here of the 61 Track Scotland machine, and will very shortly be coming around for its final lap of the race. Speaking of which, final lap's now beginning as Kieran Sharp makes his way past our flag bearer who waves the white flag. One more lap to go here at Cadwell Park, And right now, everything seems to have settled down, at least for the front of the field and for overall victory. But who will be third place on that overall podium? Will it be Andrew Pike or will it be Stuart Winers? We're on board here to find out, because Winers right now has been close all race long, but he's been very peacekeeping with regards to the way he's been driving. But will he suddenly break the peacekeeping effort and go to war? Well, let's see as they make the way out. Turn number 3. It's a big slide loose there for Stuart Winers, and as quickly as he was looking to get up to speed out the corner, the battle between himself and Andrew Pike takes a pause there, as Stuart Winers from an unexpected oversteer, just a little bit too greedy of the throttle pedal coming out of turn number 3. Well, that puts him half a second behind Andrew Pike, and right now I think he'll be thinking to himself, okay Stuart, don't throw away a prime win here. It's absolutely sealed on here by the best part of 21 seconds out of Kieran Smart. He doesn't need to do anything crazy at this point in order to lose a prime win, and indeed his teammate will take second place, and it will move them a lot closer to Nick Clevins after what's been a dominant day as far as points have been earned from Nick Clevins, given his victories in races 1 and 2. They need this result to come back at him in the Prime Championship. But as your battle for third there heads on through turn number 11, Adam Delmont is gradually being reeled in. He is now only 2 seconds away, and where he's been caught at a rate of 0.6 of a second over the last couple of laps. But he's looking safe is the next-gen green driver as he comes down in towards turn 17 for the final time. One man who makes it out the final quarter, and after a dominant pole position and winning race number 1, race number 2 was an upset, but he's back smiling here in race number 3 because Kieran Sharp takes victory here in the final race of the day at Cadwell Park, ahead of Adam Delmont, who comes home runner-up, and then Andrew Pike holds on to third ahead of Stuart Winers, who is your prime winner there for Track Scotland. What a drive from him. Kieran Smart's still got a way to go, but it is going to be, by looks things, a 1-2 for Track Scotland here in their final race of the day as he roars his way down through the final corner. Not a win in this race, which he ideally would have wanted, but still some big points for second place, and it manages to level out a little bit of the points accrued there by Nick Clevins in races 1 and 2. Phil McDougall will make it back-to-back podiums in the Prime class. He celebrated there, you can see that as he crossed the line for CXR Project Black. And then Carl Thompson, well, what a great result it was in race number 2, and from that result in race 2 he's going to go even higher here. On his debut he's going to take his first top 5 in the Prime class, and with his first top 10 overall, that is going to be 7th place down the road, the 4th place in Prime ahead of Jamie Dory, who finishes 8th. Sam Smith is 9th to round off the Prime top 5, and then it will be Nigel Stock in 10th place there in a frustrating race as Nick Clevins comes across the line there after the victories of races 1 and 2. Well, perfection hasn't quite worked out today. He'll have to settle for 7th in the Prime class, and Duncan Rye will come on through just behind there. Alan McCain 2 laps down, but he still finishes the race. Well done to Alan. Glad to see him make it to the good for race number 3. He'll finish 13th, but Duncan Rye will take 12th there, and we had the retirements of Lewis Mason and Mark Hughes. But as our drives cool on down, I think here everyone ganging up on Kieran Sharp, given the fact he's had the absolutely phenomenal run. They're on a little bit of a sprint race to the pit lane here, and it's great to see. Of course, they're just having some fun at this point. Well, understandably, all the drivers enjoying the racing out there. And well, what a trio of races. But for the Sim Racing Collectives, Kieran Sharp really today demonstrated just how much pace he has got. And at Cadwell Park here, an absolute weapon, no doubt about it. For Stuart Winers, will a win, and indeed a happy win there, and some big points picked up as he celebrates on the start-finish line. Well, as he does, I can imagine he'll be waiting for teammate Kieran Smart to make his way through it shortly, and well, they'll all come down. Will Smart follow him onto line? No, he makes his way into the pit lane there, and well, that is their race complete. And with it, let's take a look at those race results subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries, and here they are, ladies and gentlemen. So for race 3 of 3 here in round 5 of season 3 at the NXTGEN Racing Legends Cup, brought to you on iRacing, Kieran Sharp took victory for the Sim Racing Collective Esports by 5.2 seconds over NXTGEN Green's Adam Delmont. Delmont's pace may not be enough to change for the lead, but it was enough to hold off the change for a second, with Andrew Pike settling for third there for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, making it a double podium for the team, but he would have wanted a 1-2, but it wasn't to be. He was pushed along by the Track Scotland's Stuart Winers, who settled for 4th, and indeed settled for victory in the Prime class, and it was a 1-2 for the team, with Kieran Smart a further 22 seconds behind. Well done to the pair of them. And then Phil McDougall making it back-to-back podiums, 3rd place again on the Pro-Am class podium for CXR Project Black, 6th place overall, an absolutely solid performance for the 105 driver. Carl Thompson in his debut, he took a 6th in class in the previous race and now has upgraded it to a 4th in race number 3. Brilliant job from the privateer, ahead of Jamie Dory for NXTGEN Racing, with Sam Smith for iRacing Esports and Nigel Stock for Crystal Autosport rounded off your top 10. Best of the rest of the 11th was Nick Clevins in a race where it was all about recovering some key points, and there was a further 12 seconds behind Goldwyn Motorsports' Duncan Mariah, who in the end having a dismal race number 3. Indeed, it hasn't been a happy day for the South African driver today. Alan McCain, well, he may have finished 2 laps down, but still takes 13th place for iRacing Esports. Good to see him make his way onto the grid. And unfortunately, commiserations and non-finishes for the Aztec Racing Lewis Mason machine, the 991, and also for the privateer of Mark Hughes in the 495, who delivered some brilliant battling right at the start of the race. So 15 starters, 13 finishers, 12 on the lead lap, ladies and gentlemen. And that brings all of our racing here at Cadwell Park to a timely close. But still, whilst the racing may have concluded, we've still got a little bit more of the programme today, and very shortly we are going to be opening up an opportunity for our drivers to volunteer for post-round interviews if they so desire, and we will be back for those, ladies and gentlemen, in approximately 7 to 8 minutes' time. Don't go anywhere, you want to miss them, and we will see you very shortly for potential post-round interviews. Well, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, none of our drivers were available for interview this evening. We gave them an opportunity, but I think they all decided, due to the trip they've needed to make to Cadwell Park, as it is quite a remote circuit all the way up in the north of England, they've all decided to pack up early and make their way off to their home destinations, indeed in preparation for next round. So with that, we'd like to say a big thank you for watching, and if you have enjoyed today, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the next-gen racing community, well, for all that and plenty more, we do recommend you firstly head to our official website, and that being at www.nextgenracing.co.uk. On our website, as it appears on screen now, well, it's the number one place to go for all information that's about next-gen racing, and we can get access there to all the latest information on our leagues and series, plus also how you can join our official Discord, which is the beating heart of the next-gen racing community, and there's never been a better time to become part of next-gen racing, and whether you're a full esports professional all the way through to a rookie taking their first steps into sim racing, there's a place for you here on the grid at next-gen. But if you don't want to go to our website, perhaps you're more of a social media person, well, you can of course join the official Next Gen Racing Facebook group, and that's at facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing, and well, there you get to find out a little bit more about the guys and girls who make up the staffing team at Next Gen Racing, including not just what they do on the virtual circuit, but also what they do on the real life circuit, with a good number of our staff members being real life racing drivers, if not track marshals, or even racing stewards. I'd like to take a moment as well to say a big thank you to our sponsors, without whom this would not be possible. They do include PowerMaxed, Next Level Racing, Mark Sykes Designs, Joyce Design, Douglas Motorsport, Sam Cases UK, Falconer PC Builds and Support, Benji Sim Photos, and of course our primary title sponsor for this season, and that is Doble Motorcycles. And if you're looking for your next machine on two wheels that's powered by the power of dreams, well, look no further than Doble Motorcycles, the #1 Honda motorcycle dealer in the United Kingdom. And for more about them, do head to doble.co.uk to find out how you can get your latest machine of your dreams from the Honda manufacturer. Again, that website again, doble.co.uk. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, and as we transfer over the halfway point of the season, well, next time out, it will be the second part of our summer triple header. And in round number 6, we make our way from the north of England down towards the south. And in the county of Hampshire, it will be the trip around the fastest circuit in the United Kingdom. Yes, it will be the Thruxton circuit that welcomes all our drivers in round number 6. Tune in on Tuesday, the 15th of July, 2025, to see who's going to be the king of speed. But until then, we have been Next Gen Racing. I've been Paul Walsh, also known as TX14 or Brit in the Spit, and you've been watching the Next Gen Racing Legends Cup Season 3. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember, like our drivers, to stay on track. Good night. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, that's all from us here at Next Gen Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all.